man. I really meant what I said at the top. This is one of the greatest stories ever told. There's a reason it's one of the greatest stories ever told.
Again, this movie does such a, like, it's a masterclass in, like, holding you, like, you are on a thread.
Anduril, flame of the west. Sauron will not have forgotten the sword of Elendil.
I think what beat Sauron is that, like, he couldn't imagine the common folk putting faith and love into each other than trying to put faith in the evil trinket of an archangel.
My friends, you bow to no one. And for once, the hobbits stand taller than the rest.
Yes. Hey, Konnor, come here. I want to show you something.
All right, give me a second. You know, I don't know if it's the elven magic or what, but this sword, I'm telling you, it flex blaster bolts just as good as my lightsaber. Oh my goodness! It's the eye.
The Eye of Sauron.
What are we doing? We're supposed to be on our way back to Tatooine. Why did I trust you with this again?
Well, I decided we needed to take a little detour.
Bro!
I'm just kidding.
Yes!
Eat it, Sauron. Ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster by your side. Am I right? But now, it's mine. My own. Process. You want to talk about Return of the King?
Welcome back to Beyond the Dune Sea, where today we will travel to Pelennor Fields, Minas Tirith, the Black Gate, and finally to the slopes of Mount Doom. My name is Konnor.
And I'm Seth.
And today, we've continued our journey into Middle-earth. We've concluded our journey.
I was about to say continued.
Concluded our journey. We've gone in to the west.
Mm-hmm.
We made our way toward the west and watched one of the greatest films of all time, tied for the film with the most Academy Awards, believe it or not, with 11 Academy Awards. And it won all 11 nominations, believe it or not, tied with Ben-Hur and the Titanic.
Do you think, though, that was kind of like for all of them?
Yeah.
Like that it was like, look at the accomplishment that all of these did. Because I know that the others did win Academy Awards as well, but I feel like that it was like, you know, this has been a journey.
This is the one.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah.
Yeah, it did kind of feel like this was the one to give the accolades to.
Yeah, basically.
You know, and really gosh, watching this one, I think Fellowship is still my favorite of the three. Because Fellowship feels like home.
Oh, yeah.
But,
well, I also really like the practicality that's in Fellowship. I like the smaller story. I like the Fellowship itself.
Yeah. It feels a lot more just...
This one needs the other movies, I think, to really,
100%.
to really make it awesome.
Payoff. This movie is pay off the movie. Mm-hmm. Everything that's set up in the first two gets paid off in this movie beautifully. I mean, there's not a movie that like makes you pump your fist, cry, feel than this movie.
Well,
it's fantastic.
It's weird because like by the time they finally get to Mount Doom, like your heart's kind of pounding, just like, well, how's this going to end? Like this is getting crazy.
Yeah. It doesn't have that typical structure where it's like, you know, the countdown's ticking, you know, are they going to defuse the bomb at the 11th hour? It doesn't have that feel to it.
No.
Like it doesn't feel like the bad guy is just about to win. And it feels like the bad guy's almost about to win the entire movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's like, you know, that clip in the red wire. It's like, it almost feels like if you clip the wire, you still blow up. It's kind of scary. Yeah.
Well, hey, we're going to continue our tradition this week of our written reviews. Mm-hmm. We've had a lot of fun doing these in the spirit of Lord of the Rings and the spirit of J.R.R. Tolkien. So this week, start us off. A written review of The Return of the King?
Now, I'm still using my thesis statement that I've done with all of them, as I started them out the same way. I don't really care. What can I honestly say that hasn't been said about this film? As we said last week, they truly don't make them like this anymore. I really do think this is a once-in-a-lifetime film. I think it's a beautiful blend of practical effects, CGI where it's needed, and brilliant filmmaking that has helped capture that lightning in a bottle. On this rewatch, I really tried to figure out what makes this film stand out from the others. Personally, I think what makes Return of the King special is that they have taken what they've learned from the first two and applied it to this film. You can really feel the gravity of this film as it progresses to the point that it's almost unbearable as Frodo stands over the fires of Mount Doom. Return of the King is a masterclass in balancing the action with those quiet character moments. During the action, it also has an innate ability to feel like the audience is playing with Legos. The Siege of Minas Tirith and the Battle of Pelennor Fields is a masterclass in building and payoffs while using characters and items that we've met along the way in the previous films as those larger blocks. All the while, during those quiet moments, it really shows that even though it seems like Frodo is alone, he truly isn't. The whole movie, you're reminded that there's still good in the world, and Frodo and his friends are fighting for it.
Well said.
Thanks.
Well said. Kind of like what we talked about. A lot of payoff.
It is.
A lot of payoff to a lot of setup.
Yes.
Like every good story.
Mm-hmm.
So for mine,
Mm-hmm.
The Return of the King, in a word, timeless. I don't think, not in 1,000 years, that a story could be crafted that more fully captures the peril, hardship, traumatic consequences, and beautiful hope that comes with vanquishing evil. The Return of the King isn't just a tale where the hero slays the wicked dragon after a struggle large or small. It is grand, complex, and real. Real in every sense. You may not see fell beasts in the sky, orcs at your gates, or wizards conjuring fire to lay waste to the enemy, but what is more real than the characters and themes in Lord of the Rings? We witness the true essence of heroism. We may fall. We may continue to fall. And evil may persist. Yet through our struggles, it is our compassion, our friendships, and our responsibilities to one another that lift us back up, that give us the strength to climb that mountain, to charge that army, or to comfort a weary friend. It is heart and fellowship that prevail in the end, despite all the stumbles along the way. There is a trust that the king will return and that evil will be vanquished because it must be. Hope, faith, and love, the greatest of all virtues. The Return of the King and the Lord of the Rings as a whole is one of the greatest stories because it is derived from the greatest story. A tree with roots like that will always bear golden fruit. And I truly believe that a film or trilogy like this cannot be made again. That lightning, perhaps with all the divination one could imply, was captured in a bottle and is unlikely to strike that same place twice. The Return of the King offers comfort to us all, reminding us that no matter the perils we face, may we be like Aragorn or Frodo or Sam, because what awaits us in the end? White shores and beyond, a far green country under a swift sunrise. It's so good.
It is.
I love this movie.
Yeah.
I admitted last week I'd never seen the extended edition of this movie.
Oh. Oh.
I know.
Yeah.
And I've not read the book for this one.
Mm-hmm. This is the one you haven't read.
This is the one I haven't read. So now I do know quite a bit of like bits and pieces.
Lore?
Yeah. Probably not enough to get by. I was actually like these books that are sitting over here while I was drafting my notes. I cracked it open a few times to check a few, like cross-reference some quotes and whatnot.
Yeah.
I will say this flies in comparison. I think we were talking about
the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
In
Compared to
comparison
Towers?
Yeah.
Yes.
100%. Like it is.
Again, it's like Legos. It's all building on itself. It's really interesting.
It is. It's like, that's a great way to put it. It's like, it feels almost like a pyramid, and that pyramidion is that section at the end, you know, that the crack of doom, you know, and it's incredible the way that it all builds on itself. Like you never feel like this movie never feels like it's overstayed its welcome.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Towers I don't want to say it feels like that, but there are moments where
it's long in the middle.
It really does.
Yeah, like you put it best too, when like they put that warg scene in just because they needed action, they needed something to happen, and it's like, and it feels like it's kind of forced.
And what's frustrating is like Lord of the Rings doesn't need action. Like it could have done with another of the quiet moments, because those are the movies. That's the scenes that are the best, as we've said many times.
Yeah.
So you and I have we're trying to nail down, for this film. So for Fellowship. Of course, talked about the Fellowship.
Fellowship, yes.
That
Having
one's easy.
Fellowship, yes.
That one's so easy, right? Two Towers, a little harder to nail down, quite like the movie as far as structure is concerned.
Yeah.
We came down to factions, right? That's really what makes up that movie.
The Two Towers.
The Two Towers and every other faction that makes up that movie.
Yeah.
For this, I think you sent me a message and you put it best, that this movie is all about departures.
While being called return.
Return, yes. Death and departure.
Yeah.
And I really thought about that after you told me that, because I hadn't watched the movie yet. You'd sent me that late last week, and I was like, huh. And at first I was like, I don't know, because that seems to be very very thin as far as like the coverage of the movie. And then I really got to thinking about it. I'm like, gosh, that really does fit, doesn't it? Like, there's such an impression of death on this movie, but not in a way that's like grotesque or morbid. Yeah. I think that's really interesting.
Well, people die in different ways. It's really interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
that, like, some die very violently, but then others sail across the sea. Yeah. That's all I'm getting at.
This film puts a lot of emphasis on death and endings in particular, right? I mean, this movie is about endings. In fact, the joke is that this movie
has 100 endings.
It has 100 endings, and there's 40 minutes left after they destroy the ring.
I know.
And notice, this I think is so important, the juxtaposition between our heroes and our villains when it comes to death.
Oh yeah.
Gandalf embraces it as a fantastic quote, which I'll mention in a second. Encourages his friends not to be afraid, while Sauron fears death the most because there are no white shores waiting for him. And if that's not like, you see that everywhere in fiction.
Yeah.
Out back in the Dune Sea, in fact. That's Palpatine's whole thing.
What's his whole deal? He wants to stay on this plane of existence.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the Sith, right?
Yes.
And so you see that across all great stories, I think. Like the evil persists and wants to cling to this plane of existence.
Yeah. Because they can have domain over this existence. Right. It's like, well, good, like,
there's something beyond.
Exactly. And good doesn't care as much about this existence. It's about being good. Yeah. Rather than, know. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that every single one of our heroes in this movie embraces death in their own way.
Yeah.
Even chanting it during the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. I mean, they literally, death, death, death.
Yeah.
And I always found that peculiar on some of my first viewings of this movie. Like, why are they chanting that? Are they chanting that for their enemy? But no, I think that they know that they're going to their death. As of course, they have no way of knowing that Aragorn is going to come save the day with the undead army.
Yeah.
And so they know that that's what they're doing. So why embrace death in that way? And literally, you can go down the list. I mean, except for maybe Legolas and Gimli, because Legolas and Gimli really throughout any of these movies, they lose the most characterization. But even then, I mean, they are going into battle knowing they full well can die.
Yeah.
And you hear Aragorn say a couple times in this movie, I do not fear death.
Yeah.
And so I'll read the quote from Gandalf because I think that it really sums up what we're trying to talk about here. And it's a great moment where Pippin and Gandalf are kind of hiding beyond the gate of the second level in Minas Tirith. The orcs have breached the front gate and they're trying to smash down the second. Pippin says, I didn't think it would end this way. End? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path, one that we all must take. The gray rain curtain of this world rolls back and all turns to silver glass. Then you see it. What? Gandalf, see what? White shores. And beyond, a far green country under a swift sunrise. Well, that isn't so bad. No. No, it isn't.
It's gives you a lump in your throat a little bit.
It does.
Yeah.
I think it's so beautiful because that's just not typically what you see, I think, in a movie like this.
Yeah.
Like where a character like Pippin might be downtrodden about like, oh, we're
going to die here.
Yeah. And then you might have a character, the mentor type be like, no, we're going to get up and fight. You stop thinking that way. We're going to make it out of this. We're going to take on whatever comes through that gate. We're going to take them down. We're going to win. No, Gandalf is like, we very well, this could be it.
Yeah, we could die.
We might die, but that it doesn't matter if we die because like we're fighting for something bigger than ourselves. And there's something bigger waiting for us beyond.
Yeah.
And I think that is a incredible way. I mean, Tolkien, his descriptions are legendary for a reason, but I mean, this is one of them that's like so abstract and so beautiful.
Yeah.
Or abstract isn't the right word. In fact, it's the opposite. It's so not abstract for something that is typically abstract.
Yeah.
Just the white shores. And that's in that song at the end, you hear that, your favorite song.
It's the worst song.
I love it personally.
Is that the best one of the three?
I don't know. It's the most memorable in my opinion.
You don't? Okay. So
I like it.
I like May It Be.
I've done a lullaby version for my daughter. So yeah, I love it.
Okay.
It's like lay down or sweet. And like it starts out that way, about going to sleep.
Yeah.
So it's
I just, no. I don't like it.
What about like the great scene when Sam picks up Frodo like that?
Yeah, it plays
that
there.
leitmotif is playing.
Yeah, it's fine.
And it actually plays here too, actually.
Yeah, it does.
I think it's great.
It's fine. Yeah. I just think it's my least favorite probably of the three.
Well,
yeah, that's just me though.
I guess one has to be your least favorite.
I guess so. Yeah.
But yeah, I love this quote and I think it's a great way to start a discussion here about death and departures.
Yeah.
The return of the king.
Yes.
But what do you think about that? About how our heroes handle death versus how our villains handle death?
Well, again, like what you said with Star Wars, I'm kind of reminded of that like, I think that the heroes, things are going to be okay because they're dying a noble death. And I think that way deep down, evil knows it's evil. And that's why it's afraid of death, because they know judgment's coming in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's not being able to come back, whether that's getting sent to some sort of shadow realm or whatever else. Yeah, that's why evil is scared. The repercussions of the things that it's done.
Well, I guess let's get down to brass tacks, get down to specifics.
We should, because this movie has an awesome intro.
Does it?
Don't you think?
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. I think all three of these have a great opening.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would have a little bit of tough time picking which one's my favorite. Because I love the flashback in Fellowship.
Oh, yeah.
The cold open going back to the Balrog fight is awesome. And then
goes pretty hard.
Yes. And then getting all this backstory in this intro and how it sucks you right back in.
I think all in all, this one is my least favorite. I do love it.
Yeah.
I love it a lot. But I think just because, don't get me wrong, it sets the tone perfectly because it shows what we're up against.
Yeah.
Like it shows this
is the fight we haven't been able to see. That's what's going on inside Frodo.
Exactly. Like we saw in the beginning, like, okay, this is the prelude, right? This is the state of the world. It's an opening crawl, if you will.
Yeah.
Like that's the first movie, just told visually. And then the second movie is showing like, oh, we're going into a very action heavy movie, showing it from Gandalf's perspective. And it's where we're in a transition period.
Yeah.
But this is, you're right. It's coming back to an internal struggle. We get to see that for the first time. What does that look like? And I also love that it gives Andy Serkis the opportunity to really shine without the mocap. The mocap's fantastic.
It is.
But I love that he's still able to make this character believable just as like a regular guy.
I do kind of wish that he didn't lay on the Smeagol voice so much.
He backed it off a little bit.
Yeah, I wish he would have backed it off just a little bit. Not trying to tell him what to do or whatever, but I just kind of wish that he'd backed it off just a little bit.
Gotcha.
I just like too that it's so out of nowhere. That like, cause I remember sitting in the theater and being like, why are there two guys fishing? And then you hear the voice and it's like, oh, no way. And then it's like, oh, that's Andy Serkis. That's the actor that's been doing this. And again, it's cool because you see that shot when he picks up the ring, that's in the opening of Fellowship. Yeah, when he picks it up from the river. I don't know. It's just creepy that like that 1 second and then what starts happening. I mean, like the ring starts doing its thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad. I mean, I think the tale of Smeagol is a tragic one.
Yeah.
Yeah. He murdered his own brother.
First of all, the score in this scene is unreal.
Oh yes. That
it's so haunting.
Yes. Yeah.
I like to think that this is the ring. Like this is the first time, obviously, in how many years? Thousands of years.
Yeah, 3,000 years, I think.
That the ring finally was found.
Yeah.
And so the ring has to, it's like, it's putting on a show.
Yeah.
Like I have to take this guy.
This is my one chance. Yeah.
Yeah. Or I might be lost again for however long. I love that this is the death of Smeagol, you know, because really Smeagol never really comes back.
Yeah.
I think that he's hanging on by a thread.
Well, yeah.
And I love that.
I mean, we speculated Gollum's a trauma response.
Yeah.
Basically.
Like now, I don't think that these are literally two different people, because I know that sometimes when you talk about Anakin and Darth Vader, people are no, they're literally two different people. Like, no, obviously Smeagol and Gollum are the same person. It's just he's been twisted so much. But the good man that was Smeagol,
he's far gone.
Yes. Gollum betrayed and murdered
Smeagol. Yes.
So,
unfortunately, Gollum betrayed and murdered Smeagol.
Yeah, that'd be so funny. Now I got to see that. Yeah. I got to see that scene.
It's Frodo.
Smeagol wanted you to have this when you were old enough. Lifts it up. It's the ring. Gives it to Luke.
Sting.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so good.
Glows blue when orcs are around. It's when you want him to be extra careful. Writes itself.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're more alike than you might think, guys.
Exactly.
That's why we're never too far from the beyond from the Dune Sea. Anyway, I think those shots though, where it's not mocap and it's makeup, Gollum, are some of the most terrifying shots in this entire trilogy.
Yes, it's spooky where he's like changing, and gives that cool monologue.
That cool monologue.
You want me to do it?
I do want you to do it.
Okay,
you have to redeem yourself.
I don't even know. I haven't even watched it.
You did great last week, but you didn't have confidence in yourself.
I haven't even looked at it.
Have confidence. Okay. Read this monologue. It's short.
Yeah,
you can do it.
All right. I'll be honest. That's the one part of last week's episode I have not watched because I was embarrassed. Yeah. But apparently people liked it at home. Yeah. I don't know. Because a lot of the comments said stuff like that.
The home liked it.
They did, apparently.
I thought it looked good.
Yeah.
They cursed us. Murderer, they called us. They cursed us and drove us away. We wept. Precious. We wept. Be so alone. We only wish to catch a fish so juicy sweet. We forgot the taste of bread, the sound of trees, the softness of the wind. We even forgot our own name. My precious.
Hey, there it is.
Okay.
You did good.
Thanks.
What do you think of that shot at the very end of that when he says "my precious," where it goes from the makeup to the CG?
Yeah, it's creepy. That's the one where he's like this, right? Mm-hmm. And then he then shuts his hand.
Yeah, it almost makes me wish they would have kept him as the makeup version.
Yeah, and then we just keep it like that
because I think he looks really good.
No, he looks awesome. And then too, I think that it's weird. But right before all that, right when he kills Deagle, and then he says he does them, well, precious, and then he puts it on. That's just whoa. That's everything. That's okay. Now I get it. That it is. I think that's one of the first I don't know dopamine hits of this movie, if that makes any kind of sense. Yeah, where you're just payoff. Boom. Okay. All right. I got it. That was insane, but I feel real good now. If that just sucks you right back in, that's your moment. So, because I think again, it's kind of crazy watching these two guys fish, and it's this doesn't, dude. The trees were just walking. What's going on? This is really normal.
It makes you think that you're back in the Shire.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It
teases you and thinking oh, okay, are we getting a flashback, a flash forward?
Yeah, exactly. What's going on? Yeah, exactly. But then it's that pulls you right back in. It's oh no. Oh no. Yeah.
Well, I love after this too. Right after it, you get Sam and Frodo, they're sleeping in the sewer. Mm-hmm. And then he pops his head down and he's wake up, sleepsies. Wake up. And he's I saw this on Cosmonaut Variety Hour. I'm a fan of his show. And he said that Gollum works because he's like strangely adorable.
Yeah.
And you get that right away. Like you just got all these shots of him being terrifying. And you're like, oh my gosh, this guy is evil.
Yeah.
And then he pops his little head down. He's got this goofy little grin. He's like, wake up, sleepies. And it's so silly. But you just were shown how dark this character is. I think that's such an interesting juxtapose to do those right next to each other. Because this whole movie, I mean, Gollum is, he's step
faking
away.
it, more or less.
I think he's, because he's trying to lead them to Shelob. But I think that in a way, like he wants to trust them, and he wants to be good, but he can't. He's turned back on that. His chance was the last movie, and and unfortunately, tragically, not to the fault of his own.
Yeah.
He can't go back.
Yeah. Incredible
Opening to this movie. And it kind of bookends, interestingly enough, the death of Smeagol and the death of Gollum. So we'll get to at the end, a little tease, if you will. Not that we weren't going to talk about the death of Gollum on here. Come on.
Yeah.
But before we get there, the extended edition has a very important death at the beginning of the movie.
That is true. Saruman. The filth of Saruman is washing away. I go back and forth whether or not I feel like this should be in the movie. Like, I think that probably of all the deleted scenes, this one probably should be in the movie. But it is weird because like Treebeard's just not there. Did you notice that he should be standing right there?
Oh, he's just not. Yeah,
he's just not there. I know it's because they didn't CGI him because this probably they just didn't finish it. I mean, so that kind of takes me out of it a little bit. But like, this thing's brutal. Like him getting stabbed, then him falling, and him getting impaled on that thing. Like, it's all awesome.
I also go back and forth on whether or not this should be in the movie because I have seen this scene a couple times. I don't know that I've ever seen it in its entirety.
Yeah.
But I've seen this scene a couple times. And I take issue mostly with Saruman's death.
Yeah.
Not the scene itself. I know a lot of people have wished that the Scouring of the Shire was in this movie.
I don't know where it would fit in. That's the only thing.
I just think that you just do it the way the book does it. That's all. Like,
just when they get back, the Shire's just randomly on fire.
Yeah, and then they have one last thing to contend with. Because imagine that would be a nice bookend as well. You go to see Saruman.
Yeah.
And then you end with Saruman.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the big reasons Frodo leads to the Grey Havens is because he sought out to save the Shire, and when he gets back, the Shire's not saved. It's on fire.
Yeah.
Partially by his own actions.
Yeah.
And he can't live with that trauma. So not having that in there, again, I don't think it ruins the movie. I think it makes the movie a little more concise.
Yeah.
But by having Saruman's death at the beginning of the movie, I think this should have been in Two Towers. I think there was room for it. If Return of the King can have a 40-minute ending, you can add a 5-minute scene, I think, in the last one.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know how you have that
how you make
action.
it seem like it stops. Yeah. Because like after you do that, then what? Then you show a shot of Sam and Frodo. Yeah. Like,
sure.
I don't know. It's just like it ends really, Two Towers ends really solidly, I think, with Gollum.
And Gandalf also saying,
the battle for Middle Earth has just begun. Yeah.
I'm just thinking what you just said. I kind of like that where Sam and Frodo ends with that scene of Sam and Frodo being like, we could hear the tale of Frodo in the ring.
Yeah. It's all great.
Maybe you could still have that. And we just right before that, we do that scene with Saruman. I don't know.
Yeah. And I guess he could say his like dramatic line, like when Saruman dies, that he could say like, the Battle of Helm's Deep is over, but like the war for Middle Earth.
The film,
could rework
Jackson could definitely have reworked it in some way.
Yeah.
I also understand his reasoning. Like he said that it was kind of odd to go right back into the main conflict of Two Towers at the beginning of Return of the King. That's why this scene was cut. But it's just kind of messy. That's all. And the rest of the movie is not messy. It's really the only messy thing about this movie. Yeah. Is this scene. But I do love the conversation. We get a little bit of that moment from the book. Because in the book, everybody kind of has a moment where their mind is being...
Yeah, they're being tempted.
But I love this, where he starts taunting Theoden. You have fought many wars and slain many men, Theoden King, and made peace afterwards. Can we not take counsel as we once did, my old friend? Can we not make peace? We shall have peace. We shall have peace when you answer for the burning of the Westfold and the children that lie dead there. We shall have peace when the lives of the soldiers whose bodies were hewn even as they died against the gates of the Hornburg are avenged. When you hang from a gibbet for the sport of your own crows, we shall have peace. And then Saruman, gibbets and crows. Dotard. I love the way he says that.
Yeah.
And what do you want, Gandalf Greyhame? Let me guess. The key of Orthanc, or perhaps the keys of Barad-dûr itself, along with the crowns of the 7 kings and the rods of the 5 wizards. I think that's so interesting. I wonder if that's a genuine thing that Saruman says there about Gandalf. Like we were just saying about how like Sauron cannot perceive
good.
Yeah, cannot perceive
well,
good.
I think a lot of like what comes from Saruman, sorry. I think a lot that comes from Saruman is like that he's jealous of Gandalf.
Oh yeah.
Like that Galadriel, first person. Hey, I think Gandalf should be in charge of the White Council. Yeah, Gandalf didn't want to go to Middle Earth. He was a little scared to go. Now you got to go.
Yeah.
That he also wanted Celeborn gave his ring to Gandalf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Saruman's jealous. So I think that's the whole thing is that he's just
100%.
like, yeah, that he's like, what? You want the keys to my house? Is that is that why you're here? I guarantee that's what it is.
Well, the reason I asked is because Saruman is twisted. So I wonder if he thinks that now that Gandalf is the white, he's like, oh, now you're going to want everything I wanted.
Yeah.
When that's not Gandalf's goal.
I think too, it's just him twisting like, fine, I guess, whatever. Just take it all.
Yeah. And it's also one of the few mentions of the 5 wizards. I think it's the only one in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. There's only a couple in the actual books where they mention the 5 wizards, which I think is really interesting.
The
Astari. Yep. Yeah. But I think that's, it continues. He casts down the fire,
which is so awesome, but then it doesn't do anything. Yeah.
I love that. Where like engulfs Gandalf and he just kind of looks at him like, really, homie?
Yeah. What are we going to do?
And then Saruman, your staff is broken. And somebody left a really great comment on one of our videos last week that said like the magic in Lord of the Rings is more about like calling things into existence. Mm-hmm. Like that's what's so interesting. So your staff is broken. Gandalf just with his words just
breaks it. And
that's so cool.
I assume too, in like at least the films, like when Saruman and Gandalf are fighting each other, I think more is going on. We just don't see it. Yeah. Like we just see them getting knocked down, but it's not like Dumbledore fighting Voldemort. Like I think that's what's happening. We just aren't seeing that spectacle. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then of course Grima stabs Saruman, which happens in the book just at the Scouring of the Shire.
Different space. Yeah.
I think it's weird that he just kind of falls and gets stabbed on the wheel. I don't know. I don't know how you would do that differently. It just makes Saruman feel like he's just a man. Yeah. He's not just a man. He's a wizard. He's an Astari. He's a Maiar. Yeah. He's the same species as Sauron.
Yeah. So and the Balrog and Shelob.
So that's it. He just gets stabbed in the back. That's all it takes. Yeah. Like that's it. That's all we needed to do. Mm-hmm. I think it makes him feel like less of a threat than he really was. Yeah. But maybe it was Gandalf breaking his staff first.
I assume that's kind of what did it basically. Yeah. I do also think it's quite convenient that he had the Palantir in his pocket. It fell out for Pippin to grab. Yeah. Yeah.
I forget how that happens in the book because that does happen.
Grima throws it at him.
Yeah, that's right. They throw it.
But they don't, he doesn't understand its importance. He just threw it at them. Yeah.
So great scene, great moment where the first to fall. Yes. Literally.
Yes.
And he gets stabbed. The filth of Saruman is washing away.
It's so brutal, man. That like him getting impaled on that and then like, going down into the water.
I mean, thematic, right? Like he gets impaled by his own machine.
Exactly. And then washed away.
The water, then washed away.
By nature itself.
Yeah. I love a lot of those show don't tell moments in this movie and in these movies, really.
Yeah. And it's interesting too that Grima stabs him, but then also dies in doing so, that Legolas still shoots him.
Yeah. I think it's kind of sad.
It is. I mean, it's all kind of sad that it's just like, this is, you made the bed, now you got to lay in it, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So next up, we have the characters that introduce us to Isengard, which I think is so fun, the way that this happens. So as we...
hello, my lords.
Yes, hello, my lords. Mm-hmm. And welcome to Isengard. And then you have Gimli. It's like, you little rascals.
Did you say salted pork?
Yeah, it's so good. And then their long bottom leaf. Yes. It's so fun. And,
which is weird that they even have that there at Isengard.
Well, it's because the hobbits deliver supplies to Isengard,
but still, why he Saruman even like comments to Gandalf.
Yeah, like
it's your love for the long bottom leaf. It's made your mind weak. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But so these guys, they've come a long way since Fellowship.
Yes. Come a long way from getting captured by Uruk-hai.
Yes.
Yes.
And come a long way just from stealing Farmer Maggot's crop.
Farmer Maggot's crop.
And the moments in the Green Dragon, that's a really important scene, I think, in retrospect to this movie, especially when you get to the ending. But they're all being silly and being making fools of themselves, especially Merry and Pippin.
Yeah.
But here, they're still their silly old selves,
rascals. Yeah.
But and of course they don't die, but they do have their own departures of their own here, which I think is really interesting. They have to depart one another, which I think is thematically very important. They've been glued to the hip since we met them.
Definitely. And can they work without each other?
Yes. Can they do that? And can they survive? I think is a big question. But both are willing to sacrifice and die for the ones that they love. And I think that is what makes these two characters great. Like they saved this side of the world basically by forcing the Ents to go to the war, go to war, which is huge, right? It forces everybody to go east rather than creating a choke point for the world of men. Yeah. Now it's just Mordor they have to contend with, and of course the Easterlings and the guys on the boats. I forget what their name are.
Oh,
on the Corsairs, I don't remember.
Yeah, Umber.
Pippin will ride to Minas Tirith, and we get that great quote like, "Come, Shadowfax, show us the meaning of haste." I love Shadowfax's theme. It's so good. And then Merry, of course, rides with Aowen to war, where he will aid in striking down the Witch King.
I really do like that one scene where he puts on his armor for the first time and he swings it and almost takes her hips out.
He almost cuts Aowen in half.
Well, he says it's not sharp. Yeah, she's like, go to the smithy. Yeah, go to the smithy.
They have a great little story arc in this movie where him and Aowen, because they both are being shunned about going to war, and Éomer is like, this war is not is a province of men. I think is something along the lines of what he says to Aowen. But they just want to fight and be and want the chance to die for what they love. Yeah. Why should they not be given the same honor? I think it's actually Éowyn's conversation with Éomer that shines a lot of light on this. Yeah. Because she says, like, why shouldn't we be given the chance? And I think that given the context that they're all riding to their death, that's really interesting. Is like, why shouldn't we be given the chance to die just like you are? Yeah. And shows that it's a great honor, and it would be dishonorable not to go. Exactly. We see, of course, the great moment when Éowyn picks up Merry and he's like, my lady.
Ride with me.
There's a great scene with Pippin, because when they get to Gondor, Pippin swears his fealty to Denethor.
Yes.
After I didn't write it down. I should have. There's a great quote before they enter the palace.
Oh yeah, where he says, "Don't mention Boromir."
He's like, "Don't mention Boromir." The Frodo and the Ring. Yeah. In fact, it's best not to mention anything at all.
Yeah, just keep your mouth shut. In which I think a lot of people knock like the humor in these movies. I've seen that as like a complaint, like on like comicbook.com or Screen Rant, where it's like things that don't age very well, and on your like 12th rewatch of these movies, it's like the humor, and I'm like, I think that's pretty good. Like I think that's actually like it fits the tone of the movies. So
the only thing I thought was like, okay, can we move on? Was when it's in the extended edition is when Gimli like blowing down the ghosts.
Yeah, he does that way too much.
It's like way too long. Like once it would have been fine. He does it like 4 times in a row. And
gotcha.
Brother, can we like?
I thought you were talking about the drinking game. In the
beginning. Like that. I think the drinking game is fun. Mm-hmm. I love the humor in this movie. Yeah, like when Gandalf gets to be funny. Yeah, that's great stuff. Mm-hmm. But there's a moment when they're on the balcony and they're looking towards the east. Yeah, and it ends with this fantastic line because right before this, Gandalf's very upset with Pippin for saying too much and fool of a took. Yeah, all this and looking in the Palantir. Yeah, which is what forced him to go to Minas Tirith in the first place. Mm-hmm. And of course, they are strangely fortunate, as Gandalf says, because after Pippin looks into the Palantir, he tips Sauron off to. He thinks that Pippin is the one with the ring. Yeah. And that's huge. That gives them a massive advantage. They kind of briefly touch on that because Gandalf says they are strangely fortunate.
Well, I think they like build on more the fact that like Aragorn grabbing the Palantir later. I think that they really lean into that. Yeah.
Because then Sauron will then think that Aragorn has the ring, which is huge. It really throws off Sauron to Frodo and Sam.
What Palantir it is as well. It's like that's Saruman's Palantir. Oh, they beat Saruman. Yes. And now they have his Palantir. Yeah.
So maybe they use the ring to beat Saruman.
Exactly.
It's huge. Yeah. Huge moment. Yeah. for Pippin, fool of a took, who did this really stupid thing, but may have turned the tide of the entire war by doing this stupid thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so Gandalf calls him this fool of a took, many times.
Yeah.
And there's this moment on the balcony where Pippin says, "Is there any hope, Gandalf, for Frodo and Sam?" "There was never much hope.
Fools.
Just a fool's hope."
Mm-hmm.
I love that line.
Yeah. I do like how they follow it up where he just randomly is like, well, we got the White Wizard. It's got to mean something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's faith in your friends.
It shows just a great growth between these two characters because he calls him like, of all the inquisitive hobbits Peregrine took, you are the worst. Like Gandalf has a lot of love for hobbits anyway, but it's just like, he's just this annoying like little kid that he's got to take care of.
I think that he just irks him. Yeah.
This movie almost flies by so fast that you don't get moments to appreciate stuff like that. But there's even that scene, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but there's that scene in Edoras with Gandalf and Aragorn while Merry and Pippin are dancing on the table talking about the green dragon, know, and everybody's lively because they're not going to war yet.
No.
They just had their
just
victory
won. Yeah.
at Helm's Deep. Gandalf is the one who turns to Aragorn, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, do we know that he's still alive? Frodo, do we know that Frodo's still alive? What does your heart tell you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he is alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And he just turns, and it just little scenes like that is what make these movies.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely makes them. But talking about Rohan.
Yeah.
Might as well keep talking about Rohan.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think talking about in general, the people of Rohan, like about embracing death.
Very Viking.
Yeah.
Very, Norse inspired. Yeah.
Holding your axe, going to the halls of your fathers.
Exactly.
And I like that in the beginning, Theoden is very reluctant to give aid. And I think that this comes less from his own arrogance, but more so like he knows that could be it.
Yeah.
His people are done for.
Exactly. If I go help, there won't be anybody left.
Gondor calls for aid. The beacons are lit.
Exactly.
Gondor calls for aid.
Then Rohan will answer the call.
Yes. Yeah. Then Rohan will answer. It's such a good, I love the long linger on Theoden because it's like, we don't know what he's going to say at this point. Because before this, he was not sure.
Gondor when the Westfold fell.
Exactly.
Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? That's what I feel like it sounds like. That's what it reminds me of. Where was Gondor when the Westfold fell?
Well, I think that the changing point for him is that moment when he talks to Aowen. Mm-hmm. It was not Theoden of Rohan who brought our people to victory. Because he knows that while Denethor did not come to Theoden's aid, Aragorn did.
Yeah.
And Aragorn is the rightful king and he will take his throne.
Mm-hmm.
But even apart from Theoden, the entire people of Rohan understand they likely ride to death and ruin, but they do it anyway because they know it's right. And so Éomer kind of starts that, right? When they get muster the Rohirrim, we ride. Now is the hour, riders of Rohan. Oaths you have taken. Now fulfill them all to lord and land. I think that's his best line.
Yeah.
In the whole trilogy. It's delivered so well.
Mm-hmm.
This theme is repeated every time we see the Rohirrim and Rohan, that they know exactly what they're walking into.
Yeah.
They at most are buying time.
Yeah.
But they're all going to their death.
Yeah.
They can't take on Mordor.
No.
What nobility it shows with that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our sort of first departure.
Well, willingness to depart.
Willingness to depart.
Yeah.
And when we get to the second, like when they make camp, right? And they all the other men join them, and Aragorn's about to leave. There's a lot of great moments there. And Theoden talks with Aowen because Aowen and I think this is interesting that Aowen and Merry were allowed to, Merry were allowed to join them, but then
that's what they said. It was custom that the women join. Yeah, to see the
men off.
To see the men off war. Yeah.
And Theoden just says, "I have left instruction. The people are to follow your rule in my stead. Take up my seat in the Golden Hall. Long may you defend Edoras, if the battle goes ill. What other duty would you have me do, my lord? Duty? No. Would have you smile again, not grieve for those whose time has come." So much acceptance. And
I think that too, like, he doesn't have a fool's hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. That he's very like, this is how it is. We barely made it out of Helm's Deep. We don't have this magical elf army that's just going to all of a sudden show up and help us out.
I think that's so important for these characters. And again, it's another human thing, understanding that sometimes this is what you have to do. And really put in perspective, like Tolkien being a World War I veteran.
Yeah.
Sometimes fighting evil is worth it. sometimes for the sake of it, even if you don't make it out.
Yeah.
Even if you know you're vastly outnumbered and you might lose. Well, the fight itself is worth it.
Yep.
It's the making a stand is worth it.
It is interesting that like how the Battle of Minas Tirith or the Siege of Minas Tirith kind of like starts out, that they start throwing heads into the city.
Yeah.
Then they start throwing giant rocks back at them. Then the Nazgul show up and take out all the trebuchets. Okay. Then what's the answer to that? Then Rohan shows up and they start tearing everything. Or no, I take that back. They before that they bring Grond as well out, and then that's how they breach the city. And then Rohan shows up. The Witch King basically decides that he's going to take down Theoden, because that makes sense that he should go do that. And he ends up knocking Theoden's horse onto him. Yeah. Snowmane? Is that the name of his horse?
Well,
I think it
don't
is.
know.
I think that's the name of his horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That like picks up his horse and throws it onto him. Basically, the fell beast does.
How about that introduction to the Witch King?
With
Gandalf saying like Sauron has yet to reveal his greatest ally or his greatest weapon.
Yeah, I like it, but then I kind of hate it, because like the last time we really saw him was give us the halfling shield, and then like he gets washed away, and then we don't see him again, because I assume that that's not the Witch King, one of the other the Nazgul that we see in Towers. I assume that's not the Witch King.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like it's not that in the card game. I can tell you it's not them. That it's different ones. That it does feel kind of weird, but I'm like, okay, cool. He's got a neat mask now. Yeah,
just to distinguish him.
Exactly, to make him look different than the others.
Fun fact: you know why there are only 5 of the Nazgul in Fellowship at Weathertop?
Because the other 4 were dealing with Gandalf.
That's true.
Yes.
We didn't mention that during our Fellowship episode, but yes.
Yeah. I know you want to talk about that for a moment.
What?
With the Witch King, right before Rohan
he goes
shows
to
up.
Theoden?
Yeah.
Oh, when he goes to Gandalf.
Yeah, when he goes to Gandalf. Do you want to talk about that really quick?
I guess we can real quick. So he goes...
I think this is stupid.
Well, when we see him at first, he says, like, what of the wizard? Because Gandalf rides out to help Faramir and everybody ride in.
That might be my favorite scene in the movie. Like, that is so sick. How he goes out there and he shoots the light, and then like makes
Walks the Nazgul.
Yeah, makes the fell beast fly back, because you could see the cloud is chasing them basically.
Yep. And then it allows Faramir and company.
To get
to
back.
escape Osgiliath into Minas Tirith.
But just the musical cue of
great.
and he just rides out and then boom joins up with them. Like, it's so good.
And he's so fearless. I love that too. He's like he's willing to alone. Because Denethor's not sending anybody out there, because that's a whole other. We'll get to him.
Yep.
That's a whole other bag with him and Faramir.
Yep.
But and then they ask the Orcast, like, what of the wizard?
Yeah.
I will break him.
Yeah.
So we get this moment when he swoops down, because they're trying to get up to Denethor and save Faramir. And the Witch King, as a bit of he's taunting, "You old fool, can you not see when your hour is done?"
Yeah.
And he shatters Gandalf's staff after his sword ignites in flame.
Yeah. It's like a little tornado of fire. Yeah.
I think this is one of the biggest missteps of this trilogy.
It is odd. I don't know why it's there.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
It's I did a little bit of a deep dive on this before, because I was like, okay, I'm going to try to understand this. Like, why would Jackson have made this decision? Because I understand this is not well loved.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, the Witch King has an ability where he can shatter weapons that would pierce him. I think this comes from Fellowship.
Okay.
So I think that was the idea, is that, well, then he could shatter Gandalf's staff.
Yeah.
What I don't like about it is 2 things. First of all,
it's Gandalf the White Staff.
It's Gandalf the White Staff.
Yeah.
We also see Gandalf do the same thing at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
With Saruman.
Yeah.
And that has implications on its own.
Also in a deleted scene though too.
Yes, but if you're watching the extended of both, you're going to see both.
It don't matter. Yeah.
So then that has implications that the Witch King, who's just a man, elevated to a certain status, could have a power on par with the White Wizard to shatter his staff. But let's put all that aside for a moment and let's say, okay, he does have that. He can do that.
Yeah, he can do it.
What I hate the most about it is that Gandalf cowers in fear.
A little bit, yeah.
That's not Gandalf's thing.
Yeah.
Gandalf, his whole thing is that he inspires and he has no fear.
Mm-hmm.
That is his whole thing. That is Gandalf's whole character.
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
I really
even when
think
like the trolls were trying to break down the walls, is he scared? No, he's just sitting there talking to Pippin. Like,
yeah, and when they're like, no matter what comes through that gate, soldiers of Gondor, you will stand your ground.
Yeah,
not even to Sauron, but to just one of his lackeys.
Yeah, well, the lackey, but still. No, I think it's dumb.
Like, it's not. Yeah. He doesn't cower before Saruman. He doesn't cower before anybody.
Yeah,
this was a misstep.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of this.
Yeah, but anyway, all right. So he swoops down. He throws Theoden's horse. Then all of a sudden,
this is after, because right after that, then the Rohirrim.
Yeah, and then they tear up some stuff. Like they kind of turn the tide a little bit. The next thing you know, Theoden like turns right into the fell beast, basically. Okay. Mm-hmm. The next thing you know, so throws the horse. The horse is now on top of Theoden. Then next thing you know, Aowen shows up. I will kill you if you touch him. Don't come between the Nazgul and its prey. And then now she finally gets her. She gets her moment. She gets her moment. And have you heard about the flail?
Yeah, it's huge. And the studio pushed it.
Jackson just kept saying, "Make it bigger."
Yeah,
just keep making it bigger. I want it to be like that. It's like there's no way like a normal person could swing it. I just think that's cool. Anyway, Aowen gets her moment. She gets to fight. They kind of throw down a little bit, and then did she nick him or anything? I don't think she does. I think that he just grabs her by the neck basically and picks her up and fool, no man can kill me. And then next thing you know, Mary stabs him in the thigh or whatever, or and he falls down to his knees, and that's when you get that moment. She takes off her helmet. I am no man. Just stabs him right in the face, which it's legit, man. It's great. Yeah. And he does something that he implodes on himself basically, which is wild.
So I again, this is not something that's explained in the movie, but I love this thing about prophecy, right? How it says no man can kill him.
Yeah.
Really, it's Merry that breaks the spell because he has a dagger that comes from the line of Numenor. So in the book, his dagger comes from they find it in the barrows on their way, and it belongs. It was made by Numenorians. From what I understand, I could be a little bit wrong on this. I'm not sure, but it was a blade that is implied to be specifically built to destroy this person.
Okay,
and so it kind of fate led it to Merry.
Gotcha.
From what I understand, and that broke the spell that allowed Aowen to deliver the final blow,
the killing blow. Yeah.
And so what I think is interesting about this is prophecy has a funny way of sort of working itself out that way, where really it was Merry that broke the spell, but in the end, no man can kill me.
Yeah.
She's right. Yeah, I am no man. And she stabs him.
And then self-fulfilling prophecy that I'm sure that weapon wouldn't have been forged if the Witch King hadn't have hexed himself or whatever, because I'm sure he used some sort of dark magic to make sure that it's like women don't go to war.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Well, I don't think that, I think when he says no man can kill me, I think he means that generally, not that a woman can do it.
Oh, I thought that he was talking that he had legitimately hexed himself.
I could be wrong about this.
Yeah.
I think I've always taken this from when I've deep dove
no
into
mortal
the book,
man can kill him. Yeah.
The man in the general sense of man, woman, as the race, race of man. No man can kill me.
Yeah.
And so Aowen's being a little cheeky, for lack of a better word, by saying well, I'm no man, stab.
Yeah.
But that's just the funny way that prophecy has of working itself out. It's well, it technically ended up being true.
Yeah.
But that's not really why he dies. He doesn't die because a woman stabs him.
Yeah.
He dies because Merry breaks the spell and then a woman stabs him.
Yeah.
But I think that's just interesting if you look at it from that perspective of prophecy, because in stories about prophecy, often stuff like this happens where it just is just circumstance that creates the scenario where this happens. And so like you said, maybe he was so afraid of man that he took all these extra steps, and he hexed himself, and then Numenor created this blade.
Yeah.
And if not for that, then this maybe wouldn't have happened. But it ultimately led to this cascade that ultimately I am no man. Right.
Exactly.
So right after that, we get a second death, because this movie's all about death.
It is all about death. It's insane.
With so Aowen has that moment, and then runs over to Theoden. I know your face, Aowen. My eyes darken. No, I'm going to save you. What does that remind you of?
Luke.
Luke and Vader.
Yeah.
And
Well,
because what does Theoden say right away?
Well,
you already did, Aowen.
I know. Yeah. I know.
My body is broken. You have to let me go. I go to my fathers, in whose mighty company I shall now not feel ashamed.
But you'll die. Nothing can stop that now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much that.
It's the same scene.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think this line right here, though, who's in mighty company, I shall not now feel ashamed.
Yeah.
And think about how they enter the Battle of Pelennor Fields. And think about what he just said there, that he's not going to be ashamed. Because he lived how long under the rule of Saruman?
A while. I don't know how long. But I like, too, that the first thing he said is, I know your face. That's what he said when he became young again.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
But like, Helm's Deep was out of self-preservation.
Yeah.
It wasn't this great moment where Theoden King rides to war.
Yeah.
No, now he's doing what's right by his kingdom, by his men, and by his forefathers. So right when they enter, what's the speech he gives? Arise, arise, rioters of Theoden. Spear shall be shaken, shield shall be splintered. A sword day, a red day, ere the sun rises. Ride now, ride now, ride. Ride for ruin and the world's ending. Death, death, death. Forth Aerlingus. And I think that is
it's legit.
It makes sense though, right?
Yeah.
Like it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the moment where he understands, and he's encouraging his men because he's not lying to his men.
Yeah.
He's not saying, "Hey, I know this looks impossible." It's like Gandalf we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But we're gonna do this. You're the best. There's no people who ride horses better than y'all.
Yeah,
we're gonna get out there with your spears.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
No, he's like, guys,
this is it.
This is it.
But this is what we seek.
Yep.
Yeah.
To enter the halls of our fathers, in whose company we shall not now be ashamed.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then he dies and he passes on.
Yeah.
And what a great, what a different man Theoden ends up being than the man who sits on the throne of Gondor, the city that he is attempting to defend. Because what is that man doing while Theoden dies in the field outside Minas Tirith?
Well, he's also dying. Just that's King there. Sorry, that's Steward Denethor.
Steward Denethor.
Yeah, he's a poop head. That's all I gotta say. That's I have no other. That's the best description of him. Poop head. So I just wrote in my notes. Here's the quote: "Set a fire in our flesh." Like it's just like, dude, what a different type of death. Here's a dude who's just like, they've both accepted death in different ways.
Yeah.
That's what I think is really, really weird.
Denethor out of fear.
Yes.
He is succumbed with fear.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Theoden accepts and he embraces it with courage.
It's true. And like he's dying for the right causes. While Denethor, he's yelling out to all of his men, flee!
Run for your lives. He abandons everything. He abandons reason
for madness.
Indeed.
Yes.
Because when we see him, right away, Gandalf enters the room and authority is not given to you to deny the return of the king's steward. The rule of Gondor is mine and no others.
I do really like that he sits to a chair to the right.
Yeah.
To the right. I just think that's fun that he doesn't sit on the actual throne.
On the throne.
Yeah.
I know.
Both of his children quote him when they're tempted. Does that make sense? And so you get more of that, kind of, I don't know, I call it, for lack of a better term, ring speech, where, and you hear that echoed through Faramir and Boromir in Fellowship and Towers. And then finally you hear, oh, this is where that came from.
Yeah,
they're quoting their father, basically. And it's interesting that the ring taking you makes you do that, basically. Because Denethor, doesn't ever have the ring, but by George, he wants it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Denethor is one of the most intriguing characters in this story. Because he's not evil.
No.
He's just taken by madness. Because
he grief too. His favorite kid died. Oh, I got to say this too. The worst shot in all of those movies is when Faramir is sitting there smiling and you see Boromir, Boromir turns. He's like, my son. And then Faramir's standing there and he's like, it's the worst shot in all these movies.
Is it
coming
as
out and
goofy
saying,
as that
"It's
one
just
of
cheesy."
Elrond in Fellowship? You know the one?
Yes, where he just appears his face. It's as bad as that.
Yeah, it's definitely cheesy.
Yes.
So another character that I wanted to do a little bit of research on. So I was like, why? So I knew first of all, he has a Palantir.
Yes, he does.
He's also
which I do
certified. I don't know the word for it. He's like allowed to have it.
Yeah.
So he knows how to use it.
Yeah.
And so he does kind of what or Pippin does, but on purpose. He's trying to like look into Sauron's world in his mind and see what he's planning.
Yeah.
But he's driven mad by what he sees. Because what's interesting about Denethor is his constitution. He resists the temptation of Sauron.
Yeah, which is weird because like Saruman couldn't even do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he resists it completely, but all he does is I think that Denethor had a dream, like he dreams of war. So he like sleeps in his armor.
Yeah.
Because at all times he's afraid of what's going to happen, that Mordor will be on his doorstep anytime.
Yeah.
But then when the time comes, he's not ready to face it. And I think that's because of the death of Boromir, because Boromir was the fighter.
He was the captain. Yes.
He was the captain. And here we have Faramir, the wizard's pupil.
Yes.
You know,
wizard's pupil.
And I think that's ultimately what drives him further mad. There's a lot more to Denethor in the books. Like I think that Denethor's wife died in childbirth or something to do with Faramir, right?
I think you're right. Yeah.
There's something
kind of made him resent him even more. Yeah.
There's something with that. I'm not 100%. I know there's some connection there.
Yeah.
Like he's ultimately driven to suicide because he can't stand the thought of losing himself, his legacy, and his people to the city of Mordor, or in his city to Mordor. And I think that's so, like you said, like we see side by side Denethor and Theoden, both leaders of their people, and both die almost at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And Theoden embraces death because he knew that his forefathers would not be ashamed of him.
Yeah.
Whereas the opposite is true of Denethor. And Gandalf even has a great quote when they enter Minas Tirith about this. I know, me and I mean, it's Tolkien, you got to pull all the quotes. Yeah. Kings built tombs more splendid than the houses of the living and counted the names of their descent dearer than the names of their sons. Childless lords sat in aged halls musing on heraldry or in high cold towers asking questions of the stars. And so the kingdom of Gondor sank into ruin, and the line of kings failed. The white tree withered, and the rule of Gondor was given over to lesser men. And these lesser men that Gandalf speaks of are men obsessed with their own mortality. I mean, think about that, building tombs more splendid than the houses of the living. Like that's people obsessed with
legacy.
They care only if they're remembered and not how. And I think that is the key, right, with what Gandalf is talking about. And this is much like Sauron. Of course, they cling to the mortal plane. And Denethor, while I don't think that he is quite the same in that he's not like Sauron where he's clinging to the mortal plane, obviously not.
Yeah.
Because he even mentions, he's like, there will be no tomb for Denethor and Faramir. We will be burned like the kings of old. Yeah. But he just knows that maybe he's ashamed of his legacy. Yeah. Maybe that's the problem.
Well, Gandalf even says that, like, not going to like it, but in the end, he'll like love Faramir.
Yeah, he'll love him again.
Yeah, which is like in that last moment, it is nice that he like does say like my son before he like runs off. Yeah.
Well, he's just so he's not one dimensional. No character in this series is one dimensional. He's not evil. No, he's just grief stricken and mad. Yeah, he's just literally just crazy because of these visions that he saw, and he's worried about losing his city and his people and all of this stuff. Yeah, that scene. I mean, that heartbreaking scene where he's sitting down for his meal and he's like, was there no captain of the guard that would answer the call of his king or of his master or steward, however
Lord,
he said, Lord is what he says. And Faramir like says he'll do it. He'll go retake Osgiliath, even though it's a fool's errand. He's going to die. Yeah. Or you wish that I had died and Boromir had lived. I do wish that. If I should return, think better of me, Father. That would depend on the manner of your return. And then he leaves. It's in it because that's all he wants. That's all he wants is his father to love him. Yeah. And so Faramir departs. In one of the most heartbreaking moments of the film, Pippin's song. You don't like that?
I don't like it either. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I just don't.
It's so good.
It is a great scene. It's a great scene. Like, I don't know. It's probably just because he's eating right there. I don't like that either. That juxtaposition to them riding out and the eating in slow motion.
I love
and
that.
stuff.
Like he's just
it's gross. Yeah,
it's supposed to be.
Oh, I know it is, and I think that's why like it just makes me uncomfortable. It's unnerving. How about that?
You know that song? It comes from actually kind of a happy scene in Fellowship.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a song at the Green Dragon, right?
I don't remember if it's. I think they're walking. Maybe they might be at the Green Dragon. I don't know. It's part of a longer song.
Yeah,
but I think it's. And I think is this one Billy Boyd or is this?
Yes.
Yeah. So Billy Boyd came up with the tune for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
And then sang it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very haunting.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, it's super haunting.
And then of course Denethor's death. So when Denethor departs, so
it was a hot one. Do you know how far he ran? Think about that.
I know, really,
because
far.
they weren't in the main building.
No,
they were off to the left.
Like
that's the only thing that I'm like, okay, there's not much body left for him to be running because like he's on fire.
Yeah.
Like, but whatever, it looks awesome. And then Gandalf has that sweet quote that is just like, "So passes Denethor, son of Icthillion." Ah! Like it's awesome.
I often say there's a lot to chew on with these movies. And I think Denethor is one of those characters. Because it's just like, would you really start to think about him? It's like, wow, he's not just burning Faramir, he's burning himself.
Yep.
Like
and he's willing to accept it. And he's just sitting there. Yeah.
There's so much
in a T-pose. Yeah.
Like, wow.
Burning his line, basically.
There's a great little filmmaking thing too. You know, when Mary comes in, he's like, he's still alive. And he takes
Pippin,
him.
but yes.
Sorry, Pippin.
Yeah.
I keep mixing
okay.
up. When he takes Pippin, he's like, I release you from your service, die in whatever manner seems best to you.
Yeah.
And he throws him out.
Yeah.
That shot where he throws him out of the door.
Mm-hmm.
And the Texas switch. Do you know what that is? Are you familiar with that term?
Isn't that where the camera flips, right? And it's the different perspective?
No. So a Texas switch is like, it's in the same shot.
Yeah.
Where the actor will replace a stunt double.
Oh, gotcha. Yes. Where they like fall out of frame and then the next one falls into frame, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they had the double that's very small.
Yeah.
Right. And Denethor throws him. And as that double starts to roll, he stands up.
Gotcha.
And it's a great Texas switch in the movie. I really like it. There's a lot of really great, I paid more attention to it in this one than I did the other ones. When they would cut from the doubles.
Yeah.
There's another great shot when they're in Edoras and they climb up to the tower to watch Gandalf and Pippin leave.
Yes, and Mary's there and Aragorn's up there. Yeah,
because he's just on his knees most of the time when they do those scenes. But there's a great shot where you see the double and you never see his face. And as soon as he turns that corner, those things are just high enough that you can't see his face.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, the amount of thought that went into the set design of all these little things so that you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
There's only one shot in this movie where I could tell the double, and it wasn't even one of them. It was Gandalf.
Mm-hmm.
It's at
when he's fighting and swinging all like his stick around and everything like that.
I noticed it at the Battle of the Black Gate, and they're all lined up. It's not even when they're fighting, because I don't know why they needed a double for this.
Yeah,
but they're all lining up, and you just see him on his horse, and I'm like, brother, that is not Gandalf. I don't know who this imposter is.
Just some guy with a beard.
It's just some guy with a pretty slick beard. I'm not gonna lie, but that is not Gandalf.
Gotcha. I do like also. Did you notice as Mary and Aragorn run up the tower to see Pippin off at Edoras, they keep running into that poor guy who's trying to go up there to his post.
No.
Did you catch that? I'm just like, I wonder what that guy's story is, because he just is trying to get up the stairs and both of them run into him as he's going up there. Anyway.
So Denethor dying.
It does suck.
But
it really, poor guy.
I know.
Yeah.
Right?
But with the death of the steward
comes the return of the king.
We did it.
So firstly, when it comes to Aragorn is one of the big, gosh, there's a lot to talk about with Aragorn.
Yes. Well, he is the namesake of the
movie.
Book and the film. Yeah.
The return of the king. And gosh, you got to love Tolkien really hammering home. The faith-based,
allegory
or reference here. Return of the king.
Yeah.
Like, brother, you're really, I love it. I love it. Let's keep it going. Even a word like fellowship is very religiously coded.
It does feel like that.
I like that so our theme here is departures.
Yes.
So we could talk all day about every scene with Aragorn because they're all great. But the first scene is really the departure of Strider, finally.
Yes.
Because in the movies, Aragorn is reluctant to become king.
I was going to say that, what does Elrond tell him? Like let go of the ranger?
Yes.
Yeah.
When we finally see Aragorn start to accept his role, because up to this point, he's just going to go hang out with the Rohirrim.
Yeah.
He's just and then take the throne if that opportunity presents itself.
Yeah.
So they're at the camp, and with Rohan, and there's 6,000 spears, and we hoped for double that.
Yeah.
Aragorn is having a dream,
Mm-hmm.
and he wakes up in a start.
Yeah.
Because he saw the dim Harrow Road, right? And there was
The
ghost. And he's told that King Theoden wants to speak with him. And as he goes in there, there's a hooded figure.
Yeah.
And who is it? King Theoden leaves. He takes his leave.
Yes, he does.
And it is, of course, it's
my boy.
Elrond.
It's my boy Elrond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agent Smith.
Yes.
He's there. Megatron.
Yes.
There to,
Red Skull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild how much Hugo Weaving has been in like nerd stuff.
It's true. And he hates it apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they'll stop taking the roles.
Exactly.
Hugo.
You don't like it, don't do it.
They're all feeling a little downtrodden.
Yeah.
And Elrond says, "You are outnumbered, Aragorn. You need more men."
Oh, men.
There are none. There are those who dwell in the mountain. Murderers, traitors. You would call upon them to fight? They believe in nothing. They answer to no one. They will answer to the king of Gondor. And he like whips it out of his robe. This is more difficult than I expected.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Be careful. Do you want me to hold your book?
No, I need my book.
Okay.
Anduril, flame of the west, formed from the shards of Narsil. Sauron will not have forgotten the sword of Elendil. The blade that was broken shall return to Minas Tirith. Here's the great line from Elrond. The man who would wield the power of this sword can summon to him any army more deadly than any that walks this earth. Put aside the ranger. Become who you were born to be. Take the Dimholt road. I give hope to men. Keep none for myself. They say all that in Elvish, but I don't know Elvish. So.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. Someday we'll learn Elvish.
Okay, this thing is wild how long it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's so hard to pull out.
Yeah.
How'd they do this? Like, this is insane. Like,
Yeah.
I've got pretty long arms, but
yeah. It's probably a prop.
Anduril, flame of the west. Sauron will not have forgotten the sword of Elendil. Take the Dimholt road. And like, yeah, man,
It's cool.
this is what's got to happen.
Yeah.
But I love that this is like, he finally has to cast aside this dual persona he's been carrying for so long, because I mean, he's dressed like
A ranger, a duodyne.
a Dunedain, a ranger. He's like, he's not very kingly.
Mm-mm.
But this sword, the men in the mountains will answer to the call of this sword. And it's very important that he has this sword, because he's been waiting, he's been ducking the call, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. He has the sword pretty much the whole time in the books.
Yeah. He's, and personally, that's a change that I do like in the movies.
Really?
That I like that he's like not ready to accept his role as king. While in the books, he's kind of like, yeah, let's do this. I'm ready whenever the opportunity comes.
I think it makes for clunkier storytelling in the movies. I personally don't like that change. I don't think it's bad per se.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think it was necessary.
Gotcha.
Because the Return of the King, I mean, obviously there's Aragorn now kind of takes that Christ-like nature a little bit in this movie rather than Gandalf.
Yeah.
If we're comparing that, like, Jesus was never reluctant to become King of Kings.
No.
He knew his purpose. He knew his role.
Yeah.
I think it feels very modern. It feels like a very modern trope.
Yeah. I think it makes him more likable as a character. Like it's like,
does it? I don't know.
I don't. Well, I mean, in the sense that don't you have doubts?
Sure, I'm not saying he can't have doubts, but he was actively trying not to be king. Like, that's different.
Yeah.
And I think that
running away from his destiny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again,
that's like Jonah, rather than Jesus. There, I did it. Look at that. Bet you weren't expecting that, were you?
Well, he's not Jonah.
He isn't
supposed
Jonah.
to be more Christ-like.
I get that.
I just don't. I think it's a very modern trope. That's all. And I think that it's not very befitting of Aragorn's character going forward. Again, I think that they make it work in the movies. I'm fine with it, but I think that it makes his character less compelling, I guess, as a whole. Because when you read the books, he definitely does feel like a more complete character.
Yeah.
He feels a little bit more like a shadow in the movies. Not that he's not great. Because even a shadow of something as great as Aragorn in the books is still fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But so Strider departs.
Yeah.
What do you think of Strider? What do you think about Strider?
I like a Strider. I'll be honest. I think he's awesome. I love his look. I love all that. But of course, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like Like a fellowship hoe. I don't know. Yeah.
That's what I expected you to say.
Slut for fellowship. I don't know what you want to call. I mean, that's my favorite one. So I like all the eras of those characters. What? I don't know what you want me to call. I don't know. Can that stay in?
I'm keeping it, I guess.
Okay, I guess. Yeah. That's
having heartfelt discussions about why Aragorn is a Christ-like figure, but I'm just a
hoe for simping for fellowship.
The duality of men.
Yes, the duality of men. Exactly. If you don't take anything home, guys, take that home. The duality of men.
Do you find this? So this is interesting because we're talking about death and departure. He has to find an army of the dead.
It's true. And he has to walk through the valley of the shadow of death, kind of. And he doesn't fear any evil. I didn't even think about that. Like I literally just like, did you have that written down?
I sure didn't. That's great.
I just like was like,
because he says that. He says, I fear no death.
Exactly. And then I was like, what do I think about what? I think the ghosts are so stupid. That's what I think about it. But anyway, what?
Put on your your English teacher cap.
My English teacher cap.
What's the purpose of the army of the dead? Because I didn't know. I had to look. I did a deep dive on this as well. Because I have no idea, to be honest. Like, because it's like, why not at least ask them if they would help fight the next fight? You know what I mean? Rather than like, I don't know. Is it just showing that is it like more Christ-like stuff that he does have a command over the living and the dead? That was my first thought, was that in that, like in a sort of more Catholic teaching, there's the harrowing of hell, right? Where Christ, during the 3 days after he's crucified, descends into hell to amend for our sins. Yes. Yeah. And so that kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Yeah. Where he's going to find the oath breakers. Right? And so there's a little bit, I was trying to make connections to that. I was like, okay, the return of the king. Yeah. Like, let's think like Tolkien. He's telling this story about the return of the king being, a Christ-like figure. What's the purpose of this army of the dead? Because this feels the most like, it's D&D. Out there. Yes. Like, you said like Treebeard takes you out of it a little bit. Yeah. Two Towers. Oh no, the ghosts take me out of it bad. That's me here. And I'm like, so what's the deal here? Yeah. Like why the ghosts? And I think you're right. It's like, it does show that Aragorn has command over the living and the dead. Yeah. But what I found was that it solidifies his authority as king, not only to the people of Middle Earth, but to himself. Okay. And that's really important when he gets to Minas Tirith, because why would the people of Gondor follow him? Why does anybody need to believe he is who he says he is? Let's, again, tying it back to Jesus. Like, why does anybody believe Jesus is who he says he is? He has to prove it many, many times. And Jesus does prove it many, many times through miracles and ultimately the resurrection. Yeah. Right? Aragorn has that blade. Aragorn has the blade that was reforged. That was broken. It has been remade. Now, anybody can carry the blade. It's true. Him commanding the army of the dead, only they can be commanded by the king of Gondor. So it's kind of like a weird little miracle. Yes. That's what you're kind of like saying. Well, I think that ultimately the point, and this isn't so much my opinion, it's what I read going into this on some forums and things, is that when they get to Minas Tirith, they see Aragorn come in, and not only does he come in wielding the sword of Elendil, but he's also commanding this army of the dead, the oath breakers. So all of these little things, all these little commanding pieces, bedtime stories, basically. All the hints as to this guy being who he says he is are now like, oh shoot, no. He's the real deal. He says he is. Because not only does he need to lay claim in a political way, where he's like, oh, I am Isildur's heir. I have a political claim to this land. He also needs to win the hearts and minds of these people too, right? And so he saves the land. So there's that. Yeah. But then lastly, he needs to, there is the spiritual side of it too. And so he hits all the marks. Yeah. I think that's all really important. Yeah. And so I think that's what Tolkien is trying to say with the Army of the Dead. I imagine this is much more full in the book. Yeah. Again, I have not read this book, so I cannot say. But it was the thing that stuck out to me the most when it comes to this particular movie. Gotcha. So kind of interesting to go on that sort of journey as to, like, because that's how I like to digest media. I don't like to just look at stuff and be like, that's dumb, I don't like it. Yeah. It's dumb and you're dumb. I don't. Yeah, that's not how we do things on the I'll be on the Dune Sea. Yeah, I like to try to. Sometimes, ultimately, that's the conclusion you have to draw sometimes. Yeah. Well, I still like that. I had not thought that through ahead of time. The walking through the valley of the shadow of death, fearing no evil. That it's like, that makes a lot of sense when you say that and then looking at it through the lens. Yeah. Yeah. No, it does. So after this, we get a really interesting scene, one I like to call the diversion, which is where everyone departs.
Yes.
And goes to the Black Gate.
And they don't think they're going to win at all. But in doing so, they're going to buy Frodo and Sam a little bit more time.
Yes. And what I like the most about this scene, so this is right after the Battle of Pelennor Fields. They're in the White Hall. They all are like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
At this point, like we beat Sauron's forces, but he's got 10,000 whatever orcs behind that Black Gate.
Yeah.
We have no chance. Yeah, we won one small victory here today.
Yeah.
And at this point, we talked about Theoden and Rohan and how they all came knowing that there's a good chance they might die.
Yeah.
Right. There's not just a good chance they might die.
No, you see at the end, they're completely covered, surrounded. They're dead. There's no way they can win.
They will die going to this.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's the big difference. Like everything, like you said at the beginning, everything is building on top of each other.
Yes.
So you have these themes, and this theme of death that's continually building onto itself.
Yeah.
And so the battle for Minas Tirith could have been won. It was an underdog story.
Yeah.
But it could have happened.
Yeah.
And they did. They won.
Yeah.
But
they were
now,
able to drive back his forces. Yeah.
They don't have the army of the dead. They've lost a lot of people.
Yep.
There's nothing. There's nothing that they can do.
Mm-hmm.
And even Gandalf is like, what are we going to do about this? Like, I don't think that this is the best idea.
Yeah.
And so Aragorn has one last little Hail Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, takes the Palantir.
He's going to talk to Sauron.
He's going to talk to him directly. Yeah. In one of the most baller moves in this entire trilogy.
Yeah.
Long have you hunted me. Long have I eluded you. Behold, the sword of Elendil. And then Sauron gets him back a little bit.
Shows Arwen.
And he breaks the even star.
Breaks my heart. I don't know about you.
Literally.
But I mean, it literally does though. Like every time I see that, and I'm like, no.
Well, because before this, Elrond tells Aragorn that her fate is tied to the ring.
Yeah, that's not true, but yes.
It is true though.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, they really played it up though for the movie. That love story. But yes.
Well, but it is true. The elves' fates are tied, like Galadriel's is too, because she says in Fellowship, like your coming here is like, what did she say? Like us coming to our doom or something like that. Like being at the footsteps of doom.
And then that too, that if he dies, then she will, it would have been all for nothing because she's staying basically for her mortality or like earning her mortality.
So yeah, he taunts Sauron.
Yeah.
And ultimately that like Merry earlier, or Pippin earlier, staring into the Palantir, Sauron thinks that's when they start moving on. Yeah. Like Gandalf even says, things have been put in motion that cannot be undone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is huge now. Sauron
They're coming out of the Black
Gate.
To
Minas Tirith. He's done amassing his forces.
Yep.
That's it. He's moving. And it ultimately is his downfall, but they don't know that yet.
Well, you even see, they visually show that like the eye is looking at Frodo and then then it turns to go look at the gate because what's sitting at his gate. Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
And they decide they're going to march on the Black Gate because who would do that? Right. And I love the moment is so important where Aragorn stares down Sauron because Sauron now thinks that Aragorn has the ring.
Yeah.
And he's kind of afraid of that.
Yeah.
And so then they go to the Black Gate and they walk up to it. And there's this great moment where Aragorn's like, will the leader of the Black Land come forth and face justice? And then the mouth of Sauron appears.
This is another scene that I kind of wish wasn't cut because I think it's kind of awesome.
It is cool.
Yeah. It's a black Númenorian.
And who is this? Isildur's heir. It takes more to make a king than a broken elvish blade.
Throws the shirt at him. So I did some reading too about the history of that shirt, the Mithril coat. You know who it was probably for?
Legolas.
It's probably for Legolas, which is really interesting since he'd be the only prince of that age.
Yeah. And
so it would fit a young Legolas and then given to Bilbo.
So they get back and they're in a large group, right? And you get some wide shots of it. There's really not a lot of men there.
No.
Not a ton.
No. Because their forces are even, I would say, even less than half of what they had. There's an elf, there's a wizard, there's men.
They're all there together.
Hobbits.
The Fellowship leads this group.
And even the fact, though, too, is like Aragorn's a uniter.
Yeah.
All peoples are coming together to stop Sauron.
And he's, for the first time, not wearing his ranger gear. He's wearing the white tree.
Yes.
And I love this, by the way, the symbolism of the white tree.
Mm-hmm.
Like
the rebirth.
And think about, it's nature, right? And machinations.
Yeah.
Like the difference between the two.
Yeah.
Like even though they're the men, right? And they have their cities, their symbol is still a tree. It's still nature. I just think that's very befitting of Aragorn and his rule and of Gondor. And you're right. He united the West.
Yeah.
To go take on the East.
Exactly.
This speech is probably my favorite out of the entire trilogy. Hold your ground! Hold your ground! Sons of Gondor, of Rohan, my brothers, I see in your eyes the same fear that would take the heart of me. A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship, but it is not this day. An hour of wolves and shattered shields, when the age of men comes crashing down, but it is not this day. This day we fight. By all that you hold dear on this good earth, I bid you stand, men of the West. Oh man, if that doesn't get you riled up and want to get out there with Aragorn and take on the Black Gate because it opens up and they get surrounded, like surrounded.
Yep.
And it's bad.
This is even better though than that speech, in my opinion.
Right after this?
Yes.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
Because right after that, you see everybody surround them, and you get a moment where you do see it worked. Yeah. All of the orcs have come out. It gives Frodo the edge.
Mordor emptied. Yeah.
Now they don't know that. They don't know they don't know if Frodo's dead or not. They're doing this all on faith, that virtue.
Faith in your friends. You
When
don't even need to read it.
forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship, you know, and he won't break their bonds of fellowship, because even now, even today, the fellowship will not be broken.
No.
And he stands there with his sword in hand, and they all it's very quiet. And as Aragorn turns, it's the tears in his eyes that get me. For Frodo. And he whispers it.
Yeah. And runs.
And it's him running first.
Yeah.
Too.
And then who follows him though? The Hobbits run after him first.
Run first.
Yeah.
Merry and Pippin run first.
Yeah.
They've all come so far.
They have. And it's cool that they're all together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end. Talking about this theme of death and departure, you know, that here truly, as we mentioned at the beginning of this section, they know they go to die.
Yeah.
Aragorn more so. And I love the tears in his eyes there. Or I don't love it, I guess, maybe. Just that he knows for sure that this is it for him.
Yeah.
And he just says for Frodo. And I like to think maybe he's thinking about Arwen.
Oh.
Maybe he's thinking about all these things that he's never going to see. He got to become king. And I think that in his mind, he fulfilled his birthright. He's wielding the sword of Elendil. And even though he goes to his death, his forefathers will not be ashamed of him, because he became king. He returned as king. Yeah. It's so good and it's so beautiful. And of course, we know that that's not the end.
No, it isn't.
The fall of evil.
Yeah.
Talking about death, what's more satisfying than the death of evil?
Yes. Evil getting put in its place.
Yeah.
After lingering for so much time.
We followed Aragorn and the men of the West for a little while. Let's journey forth into Mordor. Yeah. See what Gollum has been up to.
You swore on the precious.
Oh, Smeagol lied.
That so good.
Right at the slopes of doom.
Yes, right on the slopes of doom. I just I felt like even more so, Gollum's like a cockroach. He just won't die. And I wonder, since he's kind of a creation of the ring, because Smeagol was, it was when the ring was introduced, that's when Gollum was originally kind of created, that can he only be destroyed when the ring's destroyed? I don't know. It makes me wonder that it's that how fitting that he was the last ring bearer, and that even it's scary that as he's falling, what's he doing? He's hugging it. He hits the lava, realizes what's happening, and what's he wanted. He doesn't even try to save himself. He just tries to keep the ring out of the fire because he knows it will destroy it. Yeah. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yes.
He's a character.
He is.
And leading, his Sam and Frodo to Shelob.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Shelob in a second.
Yeah. I know you don't. You're not into it.
Not into that.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I think that Gollum is a another terrific kind of character study, about this is ultimately where all of them will lead. But yeah, you're right. It's like he's a creation of the ring, and ultimately he's destroyed because he swore an oath to the ring, and because the ring is treacherous. And
it's true.
What a bit of irony there, that evil ultimately destroys itself.
Yeah. I wonder too, now that I've rewatched all this, Sam's line in Towers, do you want to know why your brother died? It's because he tried to take the ring from Frodo after swearing an oath to protect him. Do you think that because the ring is treacherous, because Boromir swore an oath about it and then broke that oath, do you think that's why he got killed?
Could very well be.
I don't know. It's just interesting when you start really thinking about that, because Frodo tells Gollum or Smeagol, the ring's treacherous. It's going to hold you to your word. And what's it do? It does hold him to his word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
I think, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't do any research on that. That was just something that, again, shower thoughts. I think
that's a good thought.
Yeah. I don't know.
For sure. I mean,
just
if it destroys Gollum for that same reason.
Exactly.
Man, once again, you see the beauty of Tolkien's writing. It's the irony of the ring that it destroys itself.
Yeah.
And that's the way, maybe that's the only way it could have been destroyed.
Yeah.
Because no one could have resisted the temptation at the crack of doom. And Gollum, we see this, like you said, this side by side when Smeagol takes it, my precious. And then Gollum, trying to save the ring before himself.
Exactly. Doesn't even care.
And once again, we get that haunting score, the same score from the beginning of the movie as he falls.
Yeah.
And wow, I don't think any movie has ever done the winning moment, the winning shot.
Yeah.
Quite like this one does. It's that shot of Gollum falling.
Yeah.
And the ring hitting it. And then you also, it's that moment where you're not even sure.
It actually burns or it's going to burn up.
Yeah. Because then you see a secret now that only fire can tell. You see the inscription. You're like, was this all a lie?
Yeah. Is this thing going to actually burn up? Yeah.
Was this where it was supposed to go the whole time?
Yeah. Again, this movie does such a, it's a masterclass in holding you, you are on a thread. Because Aragorn's fighting a big troll at this point that the Nazgûl are there, that it's crazy. Yeah. And then too, Frodo gets there and he can't let go of it. And Sam's right there. You gotta let it go.
Yeah. It's mine.
Exactly.
I mean, talk about death, the One Ring's death, Sauron's death.
Yes.
This is incredible. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. And like you said, it holds you to a thread.
It does. You can't.
Is it going to be destroyed?
Exactly.
Is this it? Or is there something that's going to come at the 11th hour that will save it?
Yes.
And Sauron's obsession with this earthly plane ultimately leads to his eternal damnation. Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
If he would have stayed a spirit, a Maiar, he wouldn't have died here.
No.
He would have been beaten back, and maybe he could keep becoming, continuing on.
Yeah. I think what beat Sauron is that he couldn't imagine the common folk putting faith and love into each other than trying to put faith in the evil trinket of an archangel.
Of course.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Evil cannot fathom selflessness or humility.
It's very like Palpatine, which I guess it's more like Palpatine's very Sauron. That
Indeed. Yes.
Yeah, that we've talked about that he couldn't see Vader turning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like how I don't think that Sauron could fathom that they wouldn't destroy this thing. It's too powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he thinks that Aragorn brings it to the Black Gate.
Yeah.
I mean, they play Sauron perfectly, but it's also a massive gamble.
Yes.
Because as soon as Frodo puts on that ring, it's this.
Oh, they all know.
I love that shot of the eye just.
And then I love the ring race, whipping around and then going back. Yeah.
All in that one moment, the horror of Sauron being like, oh my gosh, that's what they were.
Yeah.
It's all at once Sauron understands what has happened and what has transpired. Mm-hmm. And it's incredible. So I also wondered, what happens to Sauron, right? We see Barad-dûr crumble and the eye dissipate.
Well, you haven't read I know what happens in the book. You've read it too, right?
Yeah. I pulled the quote because I just read that moment in the book while I was prepping. Mm-hmm. But I pulled this as earlier from the book, and Gandalf kind of explains what will happen. He says, if the ring is destroyed, then Sauron will fall, and his fall will be so low that none can foresee his arising ever again, for he will lose the best part of the strength that was native to him in his beginning, and all that was made or begun with that power will crumble, and he will be maimed forever, becoming the mere spirit of malice that gnaws itself in the shadows, but cannot again grow or take shape. And so a great evil of this world will be removed. So he kind of he dissipates.
Yeah.
Like,
he kind of becomes like a cloud. And then he does
in the
like,
book. Yeah,
yes.
and then a wind wisps him away.
Yep. That he can't even like hold, he can't even handle like a breeze.
Yeah.
At that point.
He can't maintain any shape.
Mm-mm.
Like Sauron is now all but an impotent spirit, forced to wander the world. And, I think what's incredibly ironic about Sauron, that we get a beautiful quote about Aragorn in Fellowship, like, not all who wander are lost, and all that glitter is not gold. It's a quote about the true King Aragorn, but how fitting is that the opposite is now true of Sauron, obsessed with the glittering of gold, now forced to lost and wander for all eternity.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we get there that I think is all the more fascinating. We've been dancing around at all of these other characters because the movie bounces around quite a bit too.
Yeah.
And like our heroes, our conversation has been kept in the dark to who were the true heroes of the story? Samwise Gamgee and Frodo Baggins.
Yeah.
How did they get to the ring, to the crack of doom?
Yeah.
How did they get past Gollum? And really, you could talk about either of these characters in equal measure, I think. About who is the true hero, and like, because Aragorn they're all heroes, right? Yeah. Like Aragorn being the true king.
It's their friendship that's the real hero. It's their faith in each other that's the real hero.
Yeah,
it's
being able to withstand.
It's that, like, it's what Sam says, that there's good in the world and it's worth fighting for. Yes. That's like the true hero of all of it. If that makes any kind of sense. Yeah.
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 I like that Sam's story is less, we talk about death and departure, and his is less any of that. It's about returning, and talk about the return of the king. Sam is the real return of the king.
Yeah.
When he comes back to beat down Shelob, because, when they're on the winding stair, because this scene takes forever, by the way, because it was originally supposed to be in 2 towers.
Yeah.
And Frodo is successfully deceived by Gollum, of course. Sam is cast out. It's very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And then Sam does not lose his resolve. He climbs the stair alone. He vanquishes Shelob.
Can't believe he didn't grab the elf bread when he was going back up.
I know. I kind of thought that too. He just kind of crumbles it. I'm like, Sam, brother,
grab it.
What are you doing?
The journey home.
Yeah.
You come on, man. They were like really, when they were on the slopes of doom, and they were like, I can't remember the taste of bread. If only you had some bread.
Yeah, you had it right there.
Exactly.
Homie.
Anyway, continue.
But he willingly returns the ring to him too.
He does.
And in that scene, real quick, I'll just mention it. I hate Shelob. I hate how silent that thing is.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
I am, if you guys didn't know, massively afraid of spiders. I have irrational arachnophobia to the highest degree.
Yeah.
I debated walking out of the room when this scene came on. I'm not going to lie. I still, to this day, have not seen the spider scene in the Hobbit movies. I turn it off, or I close my eyes during it. I refuse to watch it. But I did. I suffered through this scene.
Yeah.
And I hated every second of it.
Yeah. Just
to let you know. So I really suffered for your guys' enjoyment on this one.
Here's a random thing too. How did she stab Frodo? He was wearing the Mithril shirt.
Also wondered that.
It's in the book, she stabs him in the neck.
Okay.
But
maybe she got him like right under the shirt.
Maybe. I don't know. It's ridiculous.
I also wondered that too. But just thought I'd mention that. Hate Shelob.
Sorry.
They did a great job, and I hate it.
She's a beautiful woman in that one game.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, what was the game? Shadow of Mordor 2.
Okay.
Yeah. She's like a lady, and then she can become a spider.
If I was in this situation, I would literally die. I've thought about this. Like, I've given this a lot of thought.
We've talked about this. That
I would literally die. I would just pass away.
You would not be able to, you wouldn't be able to handle it? Like, no. Even for your friends?
I like to think that I could muster courage for a lot of these other scenes in these books. I'd like to think.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not one of them.
Gotcha.
I would die.
It's really weird thinking about that. Like, she's the same thing as a Balrog. She's the same thing as Gandalf. She's the same thing as Saruman and Sauron.
Yeah, but she's the daughter of Ongiliath. Is that how you say that?
Yeah. I think she's nicer to look at than the spiders in The Hobbit.
Okay.
Just so you know.
If we ever cover The Hobbit, still skipping them, just letting you know. I've watched the beginning of that scene where you could just see them all in the trees. I'm like, F that.
Can't do it. You can't do it.
Nope.
Gotcha.
Nope. Okay. Just skip it.
Gotcha.
Anyway, but the best moment, of course, was after this when Sam saves Frodo, brings him to the slopes, and they are climbing. And I love all these moments where you see the ring, like it's physically weighing him down. It's like
ripping on him,
cutting into his neck. Mm-hmm. But they're there. They're at the slope of doom. They've gotten the orcs away. The diversion is working.
Yep.
They can make it. It's right there.
Yeah.
But then Frodo collapses.
Yep.
Do you remember the Shire, Mr. Frodo? It'll be spring soon. And the orchards will be in blossom. and the birds will be nesting in the hazel thicket, and they'll be sowing the summer barley in the lower fields, and eating the first of the strawberries with cream. Do you remember the taste of strawberries?
For the taste of anything.
No, Sam. I can't recall the taste of food.
You idiot.
Nor the sound of water, nor the touch of grass.
Which is...
I'm naked in the dark, and nothing, no veil between me and the wheel of fire. I could see him with my waking eyes. And then the moment of these movies. Then let us be rid of it, once and for all. Come on, Mr. Frodo. I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. You talked about manly tears a couple episodes ago. This is the one for me.
No, it's great. I think that, like, again, as I said in the first one, everybody needs a Sam.
Does this get you? Is this one of them for you?
I mean, it gets a lump in my throat. I don't know if I actually like openly get a tear, but I mean, I definitely like, because I mean, too, that like when Frodo falls later in the movie, like it's echoed in Fellowship that it's just a different hand grabs him, like that, you know, from the boat. It's the same shot, basically. Yeah. So it's just crazy how the roles are flipped and how things are different. Again, pretty cool and cool loophole. Yeah. I can't carry the ring, but I can carry the guy holding the ring.
I just love that shot where you see him. It's that close up of Sam with Frodo on his back, and you see just see it in his face.
Yeah, his determination.
The red in his eyes, and they're so crestfallen, and it's my goodness. Yeah,
it's great.
And then they get to the crack of doom, and it all seems to go downhill.
It does.
Because Frodo takes the ring for himself, because at last he gives into his temptation. Does Frodo fail? Because he's finally there. They made it. Yeah. All this way. Destroy it.
But yet he can't drop it.
But he can't put it into the fire. And so is Frodo's failure a moral one? Tolkien has an answer to this.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I don't know if I'm professional enough to answer that.
So this guy is, I know.
We're equipped to answer that.
We got a long episode today, but this is, I think, deserving of it. Last week, you guys scolded me for saying that we were going to shorten our episode. So I encourage you to read the entire thing of this. It's online. Tolkien's letter 246. A writer wrote in and asked this very question. Asked if Frodo failed in being tempted by the ring. And here's what Tolkien has to say about that. I just pulled a couple excerpts. Frodo indeed failed as a hero, as conceived by simple minds. He did not endure to the end. He gave in, ratted. I do not say simple minds with contempt. They often see with clarity the simple truth and the absolute ideal to which effort must be directed, even if it is unattainable. Gotta love Tolkien's just little, he's great at that. Yeah. Their weakness, however, is twofold. They do not perceive the complexity of any given situation in time in which an absolute ideal is enmeshed. They tend to forget that the strange element in the world that we call pity or mercy, which is also an absolute requirement in moral judgment, since it is present in the divine nature. In its highest exercise, it belongs to God. I do not think that Frodo's was a moral failure. At the last moment, the pressure of the ring would reach its maximum. Impossible, I should have said, for anyone to resist. Certainly after long possession, months of increasing torment, and when starved and exhausted, Frodo had done what he could and spent himself completely as an instrument of providence, and had produced a situation in which the object of his quest could be achieved. His humility with which he began and his sufferings were justly rewarded by the highest honor, and his exercise of patience and mercy towards Gollum gained him mercy. His failure was redressed. Frodo undertook his quest out of love to save the world he knew from disaster at his own expense. If he could, and also in complete humility, acknowledging that he was wholly inadequate for the task. His real contract was only to do what he could, to try to find a way and to go as far as the road as his strength of mind and body allowed. He did that. I do not see the breaking of his mind and will under demonic pressure after torment was any more a moral failure than the breaking of his body would have been, say, by being strangled by Gollum or being crushed by a falling rock.
He did the best he could do with the time that was given to him.
Indeed. I think that's great. I think that's so important. I think that's such an important thing.
Yeah.
Is that Frodo did everything he could.
Yeah.
And and he was enough. And so I like how Tolkien's being a little cheeky there about saying that, like, simple minds would say he failed.
Yeah.
But you need to understand mercy and grace and understand that Frodo did everything he could. And all of his will and heart that he poured into it. And what he says there at the end, that he would not consider the breaking of his mind any more a failure than the breaking of his body would have been.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really important thing to think, a really, really important aspect of this story, because we can champion Sam all day, and we should.
Yeah.
Like that, he will carry Frodo to the crack of doom, and he can say, cast it into the fire. Why are you not doing it? But he's not the one carrying the burden.
It's true. He wouldn't be able to do it if he wouldn't picked up the ring.
And I won't get into it because it's very deep, but you guys should read the rest of the letter, because he has some great insights about how if Frodo would have taken the ring for himself, if he had time with it, if Gollum would not have intervened, how he could have stood up to the ring wraiths, if only briefly. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
But then after that, they go, because Gollum obviously takes the ring into the fire and it is destroyed. And I love that shot right after that where Gandalf has tears in his eyes.
Yeah. Because he knows what's up. Yeah.
They won. And they're on the island. And you get a kind of mirror to the scene we just had on the slopes of doom. And Frodo, now you see the color in his face. It's done.
Yeah.
I love the parallel to Jesus. It is finished. I could see the Shire, the Brandywine River, Bag End, the lights of the party tree. Sam. Rosie Cotton dancing. She had ribbons in her hair. If ever I were to marry someone, it would have been her. It would have been her. And he sits down to cry. And Frodo, I love this line. I'm glad to be with you, Samwise Gamgee. Here, the end of all things. Because now they think they're going to die.
They think they're dead.
Once again, that theme of death coming back.
Departure. Yeah.
But it is not the end.
Yeah.
Gandalf comes riding in with eagles.
How many eagles?
3 eagles.
Why 3?
Because they thought Gollum was there with them.
Thought Gollum was there with them.
I didn't think about that till just now. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't. The internet seems to think that.
Gandalf would have saved Gollum.
He would have. Yes, the internet seems to think that. And I assume that that's probably right. But yeah.
I like to think when Frodo awoke, do you think he was in heaven? Do you think that's what Frodo thought? Because he sees Gandalf.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's in a comfy bed and Gandalf's sitting there. Yes. I'm sure that he thought he was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. The Fellowship remade.
Yep. We have to crown a new king.
We do have to crown a new king.
Yeah.
Because Return of the King has like 10 endings.
It does. It does. Aragorn was crowned King Elisar, a name given to him by Galadriel and adopted by the people of Gondor because of the elf stone he wore. So that's in the books. Okay. I assume that you can kind of squint your eyes that it's the even star. Could be the elf stone because the elf stone's not the even star.
Gotcha.
But I think that's kind of cool.
Is it the ring?
No, it's it's like a little jewel that's it's a green jewel.
Okay.
Yeah. That he carried. So I just think that's kind of neat.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah.
And so now have come the days of the king. May they be blessed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of great stuff to do with this scene. Obviously, the coronation of Aragorn.
Yeah.
Because now the fourth age is starting to begin.
Yes.
And
a new age, a new dawn for man.
And I love, there's a moment when Elrond is giving away Arwen.
Dude, there is so much acting right there with
he's
him
choked up.
Yes, him looking where I'm like, dude, he's not even the focus of that shot. And he is eating up that. Yeah. I thought that too, where I was like, man, he had to have done that before. He had to have given a daughter away or something like that. Because there is so much emotion on his face.
I thought, immediately noticed that.
Yeah, I do think it's really interesting that they don't really focus on that. That she essentially becomes human. She forfeits everything in doing, giving up the gift of the Valar, or the Valar. She can't go to the Grey Havens now. That's never. She's going to go to wherever men can go now. So it's really interesting. And it makes me feel bad for Elrond.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
He'll
like
be
his
forever
wife
with-
had to. Yeah, what?
He'll be forever without his daughter.
It's true, and then too that like he's been without his wife for so long too because she got hurt like really early on, and then she had to go to the Grey Havens to like rest basically. Yeah, and so yeah, it's just kind of feel bad for the guy, and then I feel bad for her because eventually it comes to a point where Aragorn does give up and he dies, and then kind of like Padme, she kind of dies of a broken heart.
Aragorn gives up.
I mean, even like he gets old, and
I was going to say, I don't know that he gives up.
I mean, he lives for a long time, and then
dies.
he just dies. He lets go. Yeah, that like, and then I do think it's sad because like Arwen does kind of die of a broken heart, kind of like Padme.
Yeah,
yeah, and then she just kind of goes off into the woods and then dies.
Yeah, she's a character we don't get a lot of time with, but she does definitely make a lot of sacrifices.
Yes, well, she made all 3 covers of the movies.
She did.
Pretty prominent.
So you have, obviously, the score is fantastic. Aragorn sings.
Yes.
And he meets up with Arwen. And then the best moment by far, he goes to, and people bow to him.
Yeah.
And then he goes and sees the 4 hobbits, Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin. And they begin to bow. My friends.
You bow to no one.
Then you hear the theme, a triumphant version of the Shire theme. And for once, the hobbits stand taller than the rest.
Yes.
It's like it's like Galadriel said. You know,
even the smallest person can make a difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we get another ending.
Before we talk about the Grey Havens, can I tell what happens with everybody? Like the rest of the Fellowship? Because I did my due diligence. I figured out what happens to all the Fellowship.
Oh, go ahead. Tell me what happens with the remaining members of the Fellowship.
Yes. So Sam becomes mayor. He had 13 kids and eventually goes to the Undying Lands. Okay, because he was a ring bearer. Okay. Merry and Pippin are buried next to Aragorn. Okay. They are the 2 tallest hobbits, by the way. They go back and they are the tallest. So, because they were drinking the Ent stuff. Yeah. Legolas and Gimli build a boat and they sail around and visit all the places that they were during the war. And then eventually they go to the Undying Lands. And like Gimli's the only dwarf that's ever been accepted into there. Yeah. And it's kind of wild that like, I wish we would have gotten some more of that, like their friendship. All we get is that kind of like one line or whatever, you know?
It's a great line.
It is. I mean, people get tattoos of it and stuff. So yeah.
Never thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
How about side by side with a friend?
I could do that. So the Grey Havens. Interesting.
It's such a tough, weird thing.
Going into the West.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of purgatory. It's not really heaven.
Yeah. It's a place for the elves to rest, basically.
To get rest.
Yep. Yeah.
And Bilbo, you get to, the person who started this whole journey.
It's true.
Going there and back again.
Yes.
Who found the ring, who got everything started. We get to sort of end with him.
Yes. Oh, I think I'm quite ready for another adventure. And what's he do? Just runs onto that boat.
Yeah, gets up onto that boat.
Mm-hmm.
I like that he says, he asked about the ring one last time.
Yeah.
So I think what's interesting how Tolkien describes Bilbo going to the Undying Lands is he's a ring bearer.
Yeah.
So he's got to go, because he's a ring bearer, he bears so much of the spiritual sort of trauma of that. So that's mostly why Frodo goes as well. But also, Tolkien seems to imply that the big reason he goes is because, first of all, Gandalf was really fond of him. Mm-hmm. And Frodo loved Bilbo most of all. And if Frodo's going to go, Frodo needs companionship if he's going to be there.
Yeah.
And so he would like to have Bilbo there with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some great stuff here from Tolkien's letters, which I'll read. Bilbo went too, no doubt as a completion of the plan due to Gandalf himself. Gandalf had a great affection for Bilbo from the Hobbit's childhood onwards. His companionship was really necessary for Frodo's sake. It is difficult to imagine a Hobbit, even one who had been through Frodo's experiences, being really happy even in an earthly paradise without a companion of his own kind, and Bilbo was the person that Frodo loved most. But he also needed and deserved the favor on his own account. He bore the mark of the ring that needed to be finally erased, a trace of pride and personal possessiveness. Of course, he was old and confused of mind, but it was still a revelation of the black mark when he said in Rivendell, "What's become of my ring, Frodo? What that you took away?" And when he was reminded of what happened, his immediate reply was, "What a pity, I should have liked to see it again." As a reward for his part, it is difficult to feel that his life would have been complete without an experience of pure elvishness and the opportunity of hearing the legends and the histories in full, the fragments of which that had so delighted him. And so Tolkien explains that, like, even in his final moments before he leaves, like, the mark of the ring is still on Bilbo.
Yeah.
And I think that that's to carry the allegory of the ring being of sin, I think that's so important. It's like, that doesn't go away.
Oh,
Temptation doesn't go away.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're saved.
Yeah. And if
too.
you've lived in sin for so long, that doesn't go away. Now you could still live righteously. And if you live according to that.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean you're still not tempted.
Exactly.
Even Jesus was tempted.
Exactly.
Away, Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. I think it's great that Tolkien included bits of that.
Yeah.
And so it was important for them to go to the Undying Lands to be rid completely of that mark.
Yeah. It is nice too to think about Bilbo should go if Frodo's going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and it's talk about sad scene with Frodo's goodbye.
Yeah.
Frodo felt so much guilt that he was compelled to leave. Because there's a scene at the Green Dragon,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can tell it still bothers him.
You juxtapose everybody there,
It's
They
happy.
returned from war. It's like all they wanted to do was come home, but home, it's not the same.
It's not the same.
It'll never be the same.
Yeah. I do like that line from Gandalf right before Frodo gets on, or like he calls Frodo, he's like, "Farewell, my brave hobbits. My work here is finished. Here at last, on the shores of the sea, comes it into our fellowship. I will not say, do not weep. Not all tears are evil." And then that's when they realize.
Yep.
Yeah.
That line about weeping is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I will not say, do not weep, for not all tears are evil.
Yeah.
Again, another great lesson for us is that, like, grief is okay.
Yeah.
Mourning is okay.
Yeah.
And they pass on. They pass on into the West.
Mm-hmm.
And our fellowship continues on.
Yeah.
And that concludes a very beautiful story. And I really meant what I said at the top, which is like, this is one of the greatest stories ever told.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason it's one of the greatest stories ever told. And it's a reason why it's remained in the hearts of all of us for so long. It's timeless. And that's the best word, I think. Really, if I could sum it up in a word, is that it's timeless. The story is timeless because its characters and its themes are timeless.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason I read so many quotes. Like, we read so many quotes throughout this whole thing, is that all these quotes mean something to you in your daily life, right? Like, you can take that. Like, I will not say do not weep, because not all tears are of evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, if you need to cry about something, about mourning a loved one, or like they're leaving or something,
Yeah.
And gosh, we could do another year of episodes about just these three movies.
Yeah.
And I don't even think we really did them justice in the three that we've done.
No, probably not. But maybe someday we'll return to them if we could talk some more about them.
I think that revisiting them has been really special for me. I love these films. I've always loved these films. Well, that's not true. I'll talk about that next week during our live stream. But they've always meant something to me in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they will always mean something to me in one way or another. And every time I watch them, they mean something different to me.
Yeah. Again, they really do grow with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you grow, they grow. And it's weird.
Like this
you can take different things from them.
I'll be honest, it's Aragorn that was the character that stuck with me. Gandalf has always been the one that I love, and Gandalf is my homie.
Yeah, he's your boy.
He's the OG, but Aragorn is the character that really stuck with me this watch. And I've always thought he was kind of bland. I'll be real.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Questions that need answering.
So I put up a prompt on Instagram, as you know, every week, asking you guys your opinion on the topic of the week. This week, of course, is of Return of the King. I also put one up on YouTube. I'm going to read a couple of those here from you guys, because we are running a little long today.
They like it.
They do like it. I know.
Yeah.
I know. I always say I'm going to read a few, and then I read like 20. So the Carlo _collections. Hope I said that right. How often do you gentlemen revisit this trilogy?
I will talk about that more
next week.
How about that?
Okay.
I'm sorry that,
You got to save some for some content next week.
But no, I can talk more about that.
Okay.
That Yeah.
So next week we're doing a live stream, kind of our personal relationship with these movies and with this story.
Yeah.
Kind of our Lord of the Rings origin stories.
Mm-hmm.
Hungry Bookworm _ if y'all had to fight in the Battle of Pelennor Fields, how long would you last?
What am I? Am I just a rider of Rohan, or am I just a guard of the Citadel? Am I an elf?
Can I be a bard?
You want to be a bard?
I want to be a bard.
A guy singing?
Yeah, I'll play a
on
drum.
his lute?
I'll be a drum. I'll play a drum.
You'll play a drum?
Yeah.
Interesting. 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. It depends on how quickly they got to me.
Yeah.
Oh, Greg Foskett. Shadow of War got me back into the Lord of the Rings universe. Thoughts on video game influence?
First one's good.
Did you play it?
First one's good.
Really? You played it? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's an Arkham game.
Yeah.
With some
Arkham
extra
meets Assassin's Creed for sure.
Yeah. First was good. Second one's literally off its rocker. Like, it is unhinged.
I can't believe you played them. I didn't think you'd have an answer to that. Why?
Oh, well, there you go.
I didn't like these games. I really thought I would.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you why I don't like them. I truly, it feels.
It's probably because it's like kind of, I don't know, perverts Tolkien. I mean, like, because they take a lot of liberties with stuff.
It's not even, I don't know. It's like, I got this game like a few weeks after it came out, Shadow of Mordor. And I was expecting, because I remember I got that and Dragon Age Inquisition on the same day. And I was like, you know what? I know I'm going to love Shadow of Mordor. I'm going to play Dragon Age first. Love Dragon Age.
Yeah.
And then I played Shadow of Mordor and I played it for maybe a day or two. And I'm like, I just can't get into it. I love Arkham. I love Assassin's Creed. I feel like it's a blend between those. And I love Tolkien, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I've tried on multiple occasions to play that game and I can't get into it. Connor Powell, how hard do y'all absolutely weep throughout this film? I do quite a bit.
I get lumps in my throat. I don't know if I like openly weep. That like, but yeah, I can't carry it. I can carry you. When they're getting married, or like his coronation, I get a lump in my throat there.
Gandalf talking about death is one for me.
Dude, yes, the White Shores, I get like a big lump in my throat because, again, man of faith. So like, that it's like, it's home. It's hard. Yeah. So yeah.
Bill Rooklyn, was that white orc with the melty face in the books? I don't know. I don't know the answer to
that. Gosh darn it. Why can't I think of his name? Hold on. Give me a minute. It's Gothmog is that orc's name.
Okay.
He might be. I'm not 100%. Because he's a named orc. I think he is. It's fine. I don't know. Yeah, I shouldn't. Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Josh Rice, do you think the Scouring of the Shire should have been included, extended cut? I don't know.
I don't know how it fits back into it.
Yeah, just with how they structured it, I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
Jonathan Acacia, I've never read the books, and maybe it's something I've missed in the films, but what is actually the reason Aragorn embraced? What actually is the reason Aragorn embraced his birthright? Was it just to command the dead army? Curious. See, this is one of the reasons I don't like this change. So in the books, he always embraced it.
Yeah.
He embraced it from the beginning. He was just waiting for the right time to take the throne.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of machinations by Gandalf as well.
And I mean,
you see bits of that here
in the movies too. That like he helped with Helm's Deep. He got Theoden back on the proverbial horse, if you will.
He's
that
still
it was
a
like,
great man. Don't get me wrong.
That's what I'm saying. Is like he's getting like I think he's now realizes that he is ready.
I just don't
to become king.
I just don't like that they made him a reluctant king.
Yeah,
I think it works ultimately, but it's like once you've tasted what they have in the book, it's hard to go back and see what they've done in the movies, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Like if I didn't have the books as reference, I probably wouldn't mind this at all.
Yeah.
But because I know that, it's like, well, I don't know the reason for the change.
Okay.
I think it's to make it more digestible for modern audiences. But Serg 7, where was Rohan's large army in Two Towers? Well, Theoden was very downtrodden in Two Towers. He didn't think anybody was coming to the rescue, and he also didn't have the Rohirrim at first. He didn't send for them.
Yeah.
So the Rohirrim were able to go find the rest of the men to join them.
Yeah.
Owen_Anderson_4. Why didn't they just fly into Mordor? Great question. Well, it's because the eagles don't just do what you ask.
No. And an eagle with the ring is a very terrifying thought.
Yeah. You have to remember that the ring is
it's an amplifier.
It's an amplifier and a beacon. And so that's why the elves can't go.
Yeah.
It's because the elves have 1 foot in the spirit realm and 1 foot not. So Sauron would be able to see them immediately.
Yeah.
Hobbits are tiny. That's the whole reason why the hobbits need to go.
It was a stealth mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the eagle's flying straight into Mordor. Maybe they get there, maybe they don't. But also, think about what Tolkien said. I read to you guys about not being able to resist in the Crack of Doom.
Exactly.
And then Gwaihir. So Gwaihir the eagle is the Wind Lord.
Yeah.
He has spoken dialogue in the movies. Yeah. He would have just put the ring on when he was on one of his talons when he gets to the Crack of Doom.
It's terrifying.
And then what's that about? You know?
Yeah. Because the eagles are way more powerful than what you realize.
Yep.
So yeah.
Michael_Kramer98, are you going to cover the Hobbit trilogy after this? Not right away.
No, maybe someday.
Do you guys want us to?
Let us know if you want us to.
There are things I love about those movies. I wouldn't mind talking about them.
There's one scene that I absolutely adore and I don't really care. Because I know it's schlock.
Okay.
I love the scene
what
where
scene is it? Tease it.
The casting out of the necromancer.
Oh, dude, that scene's dope.
I know it is, but I know it's schlock.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
AB_Tory picks. Does Anduril being reforged in this movie work better for the narrative than Fellowship? Again, that goes back to just the changing with Aragorn. I think that it works. It gets Aragorn where he needs to go in this movie. But overall, I wish that they would have kept it how it needed to be. There's a great scene in Two Towers in the book where when they're taking the weapons from them in Edoras before they walk into the hall. Yeah. And they take Anduril and Aragorn's like, you know, I forget what he says. It's a great moment where he like rebukes the soldier, like, you know, there's something happens to that sword. Yeah. Lore on Mandalore. If Frodo didn't destroy the ring, would Samwise have the strength to destroy it?
No.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Not. It's I think anybody, as Tolkien said, anybody.
Well, especially being where he's at.
It's one of those things though, maybe if Sam was able to get the ring right
He'd jump
there.
in himself.
Well, I'm thinking that, Sam wasn't being tempted the entire time.
Oh, so
he
could
twisted
maybe
his mind. So
maybe he could get rid of it in hopes of saving Frodo right then and there.
Yeah, if he somehow was able to get the ring. But Frodo would never willingly give it up at that moment.
Not at that moment.
So it really
Gollum had to bite it off of him.
Yeah, it really depends on the nature of your question, I guess. Like at what point does Sam, you have to get the ring to destroy it? Yeah. Does he hang on to it that whole time from Shelob's lair? Because if so, I think that's enough time to twist his mind.
No, it would take him. Yeah. He didn't even want to give it up at Cirith Ungol.
He had a moment. I don't think.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah. Frodo had to snatch it back.
Yeah. Yeah. From YouTube, from Chris Johanovic 2321. If a character were to start eating pizza rolls at any point during this film, which character in which moment would you want it to be? I would love to see Gandalf casually throwing down after Denethor throws himself from the top of Minas Tirith.
Oh, I was thinking.
Chowing down is what he said.
Gotcha. I mean, I'm thinking that it'd be pretty funny if, hello, my lords.
I'm thinking the same scene.
Yeah, but just Merry and Pippin. They got pizza rolls.
I was thinking the exact same scene.
Should try the pepperoni. Pepperoni, you say?
Samuel Simpson. Hey, Konnor and Seth. One of my favorite character designs is definitely the Witch King.
Yeah.
From the trilogy, what's your favorite character creature design? Also, happy belated anniversary. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
By the way, this is our 50th episode.
Really?
Isn't that wild to think about?
I didn't know that.
I know. I was going to say that at the top of the show, but I completely forgot. So
50th episode.
50th episode.
Look at that. I love how Aragorn looks, like the Strider look. Like, I think that's so cool how he's got like the leathered like tabards and he's got the elven cloak over it and everything. Like, I think he looks awesome. I'm trying to think of, like, I don't think he looks like, I get it why he's wearing the armor, but I don't think he looks nearly as cool in the armor. That's just me. I don't know. Who do you like?
I like Gandalf. I like Gandalf the Grey. I think if you're talking about I said from the trilogy. Yeah. So Gandalf the Grey, I just think he's just so cool. Yeah. I can't get over it. I just like how he looks.
I also like Elrond's armor from the Second Age in the flashback.
Oh yeah.
That looks so cool.
He looks like that in The Hobbit too, I think.
Yeah, but it's like all gold. Mm-hmm. Like I like the variation in the color. Yeah, the green and the blue and stuff.
At a waiting game, final question. Am I the only one who absolutely cannot handle the Shelob tunnel scene? Every time I watch this, I have to either skip ahead or leave the room. It's just too well done. It scares me to my core.
I don't like the sound she makes when she's biting.
I don't like the lack of sound she makes. Like that shot with Frodo is what, gosh, like my skin is crawling just thinking about it. Yeah. And she's over top. Yep. Or that shot where she first appears, you see she's like.
Yep. Oh, I remember my mom the first time because she thought her pincers were all, that was her legs. And then she's like, oh my gosh, is that all her? And then like, yeah. And I'm like, Yeah, it's a big spider mom. But the other thing, does it make you feel better? Like, she looks huge because there's hobbits around. Yeah, she's big, but like,
brother, that's Matt. I don't care. They're like 3 foot tall. I don't care if that's even a 4 foot spider. I'm done. Like, I'm running out of that. I'm throwing myself off the winding stair. Like,
you're Denethoring it. You're setting yourself on fire and you're running off something.
Honestly, like there's no. You guys, I'm not ashamed to admit I've given this a fair amount of thought.
Yeah.
Because I had a friend who he served overseas.
Yeah.
He would tell me stories about camel spiders a lot.
Yeah.
Those things are big and they run a lot.
Yeah.
Australian friends, no DMs. Okay. I know. I can already see wheels are turning with some of you guys. Some of you guys have told me horror stories already.
Yeah.
I want to know nothing about the spiders you got over there.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, that's all I'm saying about Shelob.
We're done talking about it. Yeah.
I hate that thing so much.
It's scary.
There we go. Our longest episode of Beyond the Dune Sea to date. We have one more journey through Middle Earth as we go into the west.
Yeah.
Before heading back to the Dune Sea. Will we find the Dune Sea out to the west, or will we fade away into the Grey Havens? I don't know. But next week, our Lord of the Rings origin stories. Come hang out with us. It'll be a live stream. Come talk about your personal stories with Lord of the Rings. I'm excited about that. I got a few prompts that I'm going to put up this week. A couple polls I'm interested to see some results in from you guys. Once again, I want to give you guys a big thank you for last week. We had our 1 year anniversary watch party of A New Hope. So much fun, guys. You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
We also announced, finally, if you guys didn't see, we have merch. I know it's crazy to me that you guys even wanted that. So
I know,
we're
it's
flattered
weird.
by that.
Yeah.
And
it means a lot.
We always said if we were going to do that, we wanted to try to do it right. So my wife put a lot of work into that. She's very talented at that sort of thing. So she got that. You'll see that in the description. I think we actually you can get like a preview of it underneath the video. I don't know how that works, but if you're interested, check it out. If not, no worries at all.
Yeah.
But we just want to thank you so much for attending that stream. That was cool. You guys were a lot of fun. And thanks for being on this journey with us to Middle Earth. We were kind of worried about that, being a Star Wars centric channel and heading out
Beyond the Dune Sea.
Would you guys like to see a little bit more Beyond content?
Yeah, let us know.
Let us know about that.
How often do you want us to venture out beyond the Dune Sea?
We always said 80-20. And do you guys want us to keep it 80-20, or are you okay with maybe tipping the scale a little bit? Because I'll be real, I had a lot of fun with this.
Want some like 60-40?
Yeah.
You want that? I don't know.
Because we love a lot of other stuff.
We do.
I mean, Star Wars will always be at our core.
No, yeah. But we do like to talk about other things too.
Yeah. So if you can see these shelves down here, there's a lot of stuff on here.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't mind jumping across universes. Maybe that'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you guys so much for watching. Yes. I know this was a long one.
Thank you. But lots of good information.
Lots of great stuff. These movies are great. They hold a special place in our hearts. We know they hold a special place in yours too.
Mm-hmm.
See you guys next week during our live stream.
Yeah.
Same Dune time. Actually, that's not true. It'll be at 5 p.m. EST. That's our usual live stream time. Is that what we're doing it?
I think so, probably. I don't know.
That sound good? You want to do 6 p.m. instead?
I don't care. Whatever you want to do. Will there be pizza rolls?
Probably not. I can't. Maybe. I don't know. Let's do 6 p.m. EST next week. That'd be a little easier to adjust because I know some of our overseas fans are a fan of us pushing it a little later. I don't know. We'll do 6 p.m. EST next week.
Okay.
6 p.m. EST next Friday. So not same Dune time, but it will be the same Dune channel. And as always,
it's Dune in time.
We'll see you guys next week.